Christmas that never was. I never cared much about the Mandela effect. To me, it was like swapping sugar for salt. A mix-up that led to a laugh among friends, but was hardly worth losing sleep over. Misremembered movie quotes, wrong lyrics. It was just the way the mind played tricks as it aged. That was until I stumbled upon something that shattered my perception of reality like a delicate ornament tumbling from a high shelf. It was just after Thanksgiving when I braved the attic of my parents' home. The air was stale and smelled of dust and forgotten memories. As I rummaged through boxes of old decorations, something caught my eye, a book that seemed oddly out of place. It was an old copy of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, its faded cover worn with age, yet strikingly vibrant against the muted tones of cardboard and old blankets. But wait, something felt off. I quickly recalled that the title had always been How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I tightened my grip on the book, a chill creeping up my spine. A misprint, perhaps. It wasn't uncommon for old editions to have errors. With a mix of both curiosity and dread, I began to flip through the pages. The illustrations were familiar, but the rhymes, something about them felt heavier, laden with a weight that felt not just wrong, but sinister. And of the cheerful spirit of Christmas I had grown up with, the verses reflected an unsettling darkness, as if the very essence of joy had been siphoned away. Then I reached the last page. My heart sank. The Grinch didn't return the presents. In fact, he simply stood upon the snowy peak of Mount Crumpet, staring down at Who's as they cried, their faces contorted in despair. And then he smiled. Not the playful grin I remembered from countless childhood views. This smile was wide, unnaturally sharp, as if he reveled in their sorrow. Suddenly, I heard a soft scratching at the window, like thin nails clawing at glass. Ice crawled beneath my skin. Was my imagination playing tricks on me? I hesitated, breathing shallowly as I slowly turned my gaze towards where the sound emerged. Outside, buried beneath drifting snow, something tall and thin loomed. It was green, watching me with that same sharp smile plastered on its face. Panic surged through my veins and I dropped the book, racing down the stairs at it. My mind felt like a tangled web. Something was not right. I needed to find solid ground. Maybe I should watch the Jim Carrey movie, perhaps relive those joyous moments of childhood to banish the dark thoughts creeping into my mind. But when I sat down and hit the play, something was amiss. A line I distinctly remembered. I'm the Grinch who stole Christmas, was gone, vanished like a lost memory. My heart raced as I sifted through my shattered recollections, trying to piece together fragments that no longer made sense. A scratching sound began at my bedroom door, the mere thought sending shivers down my spine. I wanted to believe it was just a tree branch swaying in the wind, but the sound grew louder, more deliberate. It was no longer just external. Something felt wrong within me too. Driven by fear, I turned to the vast lifeline of the internet and stumbled onto a disturbing Reddit thread. Users debated a Lost Grinch adaptation, the whispers describing a version where the Grinch never changed. The screenplay supposedly took on some darker themes, mingling childhood innocence with evil intentions. As I read, a sinking feeling tugged at me. What if there was a darker truth buried far beneath the laughter of childhood? Days later, fresh from a thrift store, I stumbled upon an unlabeled VHS tape, the original Grinch. My heart raced. This was it. This had to hold the answers. As I played the tape, the animation appeared coarse, almost as if it were a nightmare projected onto the screen. The Who's didn't sing. They merely stood in the snow, gazing up as their joyous sounds faded into eerie silence. The Grinch's eyes were lifelike, dripping with malice. He smiled directly at me. I felt his gaze boring holes through my very soul, and for the first time, I understood. This was no cheerful tale. This was a curse. Determined to understand this dark mystery, I discovered an old newspaper article from the 1950s. It claimed that Dr. Seuss had a first draft titled "The Christmas That Never Was." Each mention was blurred or scratched out, as if someone had tried to erase, iterating the existence of hope. That night, strange whispers filled my room, curling around me like shadows. The title on the book's cover changed again, morphing into something even more sinister. The last page was now blank, devoid of content, yet I could sense a presence, watching, waiting. As I stared out the window, I saw footprints in the snow, long, green, and pointed. I glanced at my reflection and found myself grinning, despite my fear. Soon after, the whispers turned into laughter. Haunting, echoing laughter. I rushed to search for evidence of the original title but found nothing. The television flickered to life without my command, the lost version of my childhood tale playing loudly. The Grinch slowly stepping toward the screen, his smile widening. At last the book reappeared on my nightstand, its pages flipping open to a new final chapter, one that described me, detailing my fate, my essence intertwined with the Grinch's malevolence. The last line hit me like a bolt of lightning, and then the Grinch took them too, as joy turned into madness. With laughter reverberating in my mind and the room growing darker, all I could do was watch in horrified fascination as the screen faded to black. The Christmas spirit I once cherished had become a haunting shadow. The wrong book. The attic of my childhood home was a place steeped in shadows and nostalgia, a labyrinth of forgotten toys, dusty boxes, and the faint smell of mothballs that seemed to cling to everything like a long-lost friend. I hadn't been up there in years, but as Christmas approached, an urge to rummage through the relics of my past possessed me. Memories of my childhood, when a simple decoration could ignite pure joy, beckoned me to climb the narrow, creaking stairs. With each step I took, the wood groaned beneath my feet, echoing my every movement like an old man lamenting the passage of time. I felt the weight of many seasons above me, jubilant Christmas mornings, spontaneous snowball fights, and the tender warmth of family gatherings, all layered like dust on the box tops around me. The attic carried the echoes of my laughter, but today it felt as if something unspeakable dwelled there, lurking just beyond the edge of memory. As I rifled through the boxes, a glint of gold caught my eyes. There, half buried under an old, tattered blanket, was a book. The spine wore a faded green color, adorned with illustrations that seemed to leap to life from the page. An image of a grumpy green creature, one I'd known since I could remember. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, it proclaimed. The title felt wrong, clumsy even. It should be How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I could hear my voice echoing the title, deeper and happily triumphant, a line I had repeated countless times while huddled under fuzzy blankets as a child. A chill slithered down my spine, creeping over my skin like an icy whisper. Maybe it was a rare edition, I thought, trying to dismiss the unease that wrinkled my brow. But when I opened the pages, the familiar lines of Seuss's whimsical rhymes began to warp and twist, distorting in ways that set my heart racing. The Grinch's smile was unsettling, No longer the simple, cartoonish grin savored by generations, but something jagged and sinister, like a knife turned on its own reflection. Grinch, it read, who came to steal and wreak despair. I felt a headache beginning to pulse at my temples, a warning bell ringing in my head. This book shouldn't exist. It was as if the words had been enchanted, reshaped by curse or black magic, tainted with an intention I could not pin down but instinctively sensed. "Mom," I called out hesitantly. It was a feeble attempt to summon her, but only silence lingered in response. A storm rumbled outside, the sound rolling ominously against the wooden beams of the attic, rattling the window's frame. Suddenly, a strange noise echoed from beyond the attic window. It was a scratching, as if something, or someone, was clawing at the frame. I froze, every muscle in my body tensing. My heart beat violently against my chest, drowning out the noise of the wind. Outside, the snow fell thick and fast, a white veil that blanketed the ground in pure whiteness. But it felt tainted somehow, a trap waiting to be sprung. The scratching continued, an urgent plea that made my skin prickle. I inched closer to the window, the book clutched tightly in my hands. I wiped the frost from the glass, and a figure emerged through the swirling snow, tall, thin, and green, as if the creature from the pages had come to life. The outline was distorted, but there was no mistaking that smile. It was smiling directly at me. I stumbled back, my breath quickening as I flipped through the book, desperate for reassurance, but all I found was more wrongness. The destruction of holiday cheer was evident in every backward rhyme. The Grinch never learned his lesson, never returned the stolen gifts and delights to the who's below. Instead, he stood atop Mount Crumpet, watching their despair with delight, a malevolent creature facing the horizon. What is happening? The words slipped from my lips unbidden, a mantra against the creeping terror closing in. Was this some kind of black magic? What kind of twisted intent led to the creation of a story so vile that it would twist my cherished memories into grotesque nightmares? As I felt dread coiling in my gut, I looked again at the window, and there, at the periphery of my vision, the green figure was gone, just a shadow lost to the falling snow. A breeze swept through the attic, chilling me to the bone, reeking of secrets long buried. I shoved the book back onto the dusty stack, a bitter bile rising in my throat. What had started as a search for warmth and nostalgia had turned into something haunting and inexplicable, pushing me into a pit of uncertainty. Maybe I was merely tired, I thought, or imagining things, an echo of my own mind. But deep down, I knew the truth. Whatever that book was, whatever malevolent force had been invoked, it was only the beginning of a Christmas that never was. A thought floated in my mind, a cold, creeping realization. When would it end, and at what cost? Changing words. The air in the attic was thick with the scent of mildew and forgotten memories as I sat cross-legged on the wooden floor, the ancient book cradled in my lap. Despite the dust motes swirling in the feeble light filtering through the window, I felt heavy, as if the weight of 1,000 questions pressed down on me. The title on the cover, "The Grinch Who Stole Christmas," sent a shiver through me. The title whispered of something wrong, something I shouldn't be holding. But my curiosity nagged at me, the same curiosity that had made me spend long hours rifling through the attic as a child. I opened the book and my heart lurched. The familiar illustrations by Dr. Seuss danced before my eyes, yet something sinister lingered just beyond the colorful whimsy. As I read the first stanza, The words pulsed with an uncomfortable energy. The rhymes seemed slightly off, as if someone had taken the joyous cadence of the original and twisted it into a dark parody. Every who down in Whoville loved Christmas a lot, I murmured to myself, wincing at the change that followed. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. The fumbling rhythm crawled through my mind and brought unease with each line. The Grinch's motivation felt muddier, somehow laced with bitterness that felt tangible. I flipped the page, desperate for the familiar warmth of memory, yet I stumbled upon a description of the Grinch's infamous smile that left a cold chill in my bones. He smiled, a wide grin, sharp like a blade, a grin born from darkness, a grin full of hate. The way the words twisted formed a reflection of something darker, something malevolent lurking beneath the surface of the festive tale. I read on, horrified as the ending unfolded in stark contrast to my childhood memories. The Grinch didn't return the presents. Instead, as I turned the final page, I found him standing atop Mount Crumpet, gazing down at the Whos as they wept. His smile widened, not in triumph, but with a sick satisfaction that made my stomach churn. The words seemed to change right before my eyes. The Grinch stood there, and his heart, it didn't grow 3 sizes that day. He felt delight as they cried, and for Christmas they would pay. Just then, a sudden scratch at the window snapped me from my daze. I jumped, instinctively closing the book, my heart pounding as I peered outside through the frosted glass. The world outside was glistening with snow, yet the uncanny stillness of the night weighed heavy, pressing down on my racing thoughts. I squinted, heart racing even faster at the sight of something tall, thin, and unmistakably green just beyond the edge of the porch light. Its eyes glimmered like shards of glass, reflecting the light with an intensity that made my breath catch. "What the hell?" I whispered to myself, a hollow echo of fear rippling through my mind. It held a smile, unsettling and sharp, as if it were a predator savoring its prey. I shook my head, attempting to dismiss the vision as a trick of the light, my mind racing through countless possibilities. Schizophrenia started to feel like a looming shadow in the recesses of my mind. I recalled the stories my grandmother had told me, about families driven mad by whispers from the shadows, their reality distorted by unseen forces. But surely I wasn't falling into that abyss. My phone buzzed abruptly, cutting through the silence and snapping me from my thoughts. It was a text from my sister, Anna. The message was simple. "Did you find it? The book? The one about the Grinch?" My heart sank. She knew. Had she experienced the same sense of dread? I remembered the last family Christmas we spent together, the way Anna had excused herself early, shaking and white, muttering about something she couldn't shake from her mind. I quickly replied, "I found it, but something feels wrong." Her response was almost immediate. "Whatever you do, don't read it at night. I'll come over. We need to talk." Static filled the air as her message echoed in my mind. I glanced at the book again, the cover mocking me with its altered title. What black magic had twisted this tale into something so vile? I remembered Grandpa's stories, fables about curses from sequences long forgotten, tales of necromancy invoked through the written word. Just then, a strange sound arose, like a distant dirge echoing through the house. I could swear it felt like it came from the very walls. creeping under my skin with its mournful tones, tugging at memories I wanted to forget. It felt sinister and invasive, like the laugh of an unseen beast lurking beyond my line of sight. All those stories, those childhood tales of the Who's singing joyfully, now fractured, corrupted by something that felt alive. "Not tonight," I whispered to myself as I stood. I could feel panic rising in my chest, the words of the book now a haunting specter refusing to let me go. With trembling hands, I decided to put some distance between myself and the shadowy essence this book had unleashed. But with every step toward the stairs, I felt its presence looming beside me, whispering beneath the din of my racing heart. "You've only just begun." The chill clung to my skin, wrapping around me like a vice. I knew now, the Christmas I once loved was slipping, turning into a nightmare that wouldn't let go. And outside, that green figure stood still, watching, waiting. The forgotten movie scene. The glow of the television flickered in my dimly lit living room as I settled on the couch with a blanket wrapped around me like a protective cocoon. The familiar melody of the Grinch's theme began to play, stirring up a nostalgia sense of safety woven into my holiday memories. I was prepared to dive back into the world I had cherished. Jim Carrey, with his over-the-top antics, was supposed to bring laughter and warmth. But as the movie unfolded, unease crept over me like an uninvited guest. I noticed the scene shifted slightly, as if they had been rearranged without my consent. Was it just my imagination, or had the pacing been altered? My heart raced as I focused harder on the screen. The Grinch Stole presents from the Who's with a blend of mischief and charm. Yet something felt cold about his laughter now. A laugh that echoed in an empty hive house, unsettling rather than merry. Then it happened. That line, the one I could practically hear in my sleep, was gone. And the Grinch who stole Christmas. A flat vacancy filled its void. My mouth fell slightly open, and I could almost taste the chalky residue of disbelief. Had someone tampered with this classic, or was I losing my mind? Panic seized me as memories of laughter around the holidays clashed with a growing dread. With furrowed brows, I reached for my phone, the warmth of the screen a stark contrast to the chill curling through the room. The fear of a misfit memory gnawed at my gut, and I quickly scrolled through the comments on a movie database. My heart sank as I read threads of similar experiences, people recalling a scene that was slowly disappearing from collective consciousness. It was as if an unseen hand scrawled over our shared memories in the dark. Suddenly, a scratching sound broke through my thoughts. A soft scuffle like fingernails raking down a wooden door. The sound originated from my bedroom, thin and persistent. I glanced toward the direction, the faint creak of the house amplifying my fear. It was probably just a trick of the wind or a tree branch brushing against the siding. Just an accident. But the scratching persisted like a countdown to an inevitable encounter. The rhythm resonated with my rising heart rate. Pat, pat, scratch, scratch. I turned back to the screen, desperately seeking comfort in the familiar animation. But it was gone. The warmth snuffed out by the dark weight enveloping the air around me. "Maybe it's just a stray," I muttered aloud to the empty room. My voice broke the awkward silence, yet it did little to chase away the shadows lurking in my mind. My thoughts began to spiral. What if it were something more malevolent? Maybe an animal was trapped, or worse. What if it was a trick played by something darker? The idea of black magic lingered at the edge of my consciousness, a whisper that echoed my fears. With trembling hands, I turned the television off and approached the door. Each step was heavier than the last, a tar-like goo of anxiety weighing down my feet. The scratching intensified, sharp and desperate, as I neared the entry to my bedroom. "Hello." My voice trembled. A thin veil of courage wavered in the darkness. I felt ridiculous, talking to a closed door as if it might respond. But the atmosphere felt thick with something purposefully sinister, something that made me doubt my own mental stability. Moments stretched into an eternity. I reached for the door handle, hesitating. That's when I noticed the absence of sound. The scratching stopped. An eerie silence swallowed my voice whole, resonating against the walls with a chilling permanence. My breath hitched in my throat as I thought about what or who might be waiting for me on the other side. Suddenly, a loud bang reverberated against the door, and instinctively I leaped back, heart racing. Images flooded my mind, childhood horror stories, layered with familial curses, invoked demons thought to haunt the spaces between the known and the unknown. I could feel shadows whispering around me, trying to breach the walls I had so carefully constructed around my psyche. "Whatever you are, leave me alone," I cried, my defiance a paper-thin layer against the encroaching dread. I grabbed my phone once more, ready to capture evidence or summon help, anything to anchor me back to reality. That's when I caught a glimpse of myself in the window, reflecting against the blackness outside. A tiny sliver of movement caught my eye, and my heart sank into my stomach. My own reflection was Grinny, the lost special. As I sat hunched over my laptop, the glow of the screen illuminated my concern. The dust motes danced in the air of my childhood room, and the faint scent of musty old toys mixed with the crisp cold spilling through the window. I opened a Reddit thread titled "Lost Grinch Adaptation," a title that sent a prickling sensation crawling up my spine. Didn't the original title matter anymore? Scrolling through the comments, I found a user whose name was cloaked in the anonymity of the internet. They claimed to remember a version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas that never got released. In this version, the Grinch didn't undergo his redemptive transformation. Instead, he remained a bitter, malevolent creature, fully embracing the darkness within him. The comments below were a mixture of disbelief and spooky nostalgia, with some users swearing they had seen this cursed adaptation in their childhood, if only in fleeting, haunted dreams blurred by the edges of memory. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. It felt more dreadful than revelatory. What kind of world existed beyond my quaint recollections of winter snowflakes and cheerful whoos? I continued reading, heart pounding. The user explained that whispers circled among families during Christmas gatherings, tales of a cursed animosity that lurked within that old story, a vengeful force surfacing every few decades to reclaim lost hope. "Don't watch it," one commenter warned. "It could take your spirit." The sentiment echoed in my mind like a curse. I clicked away from the thread, unease settling like the frost outside. A few days later, compelled by a bizarre mix of curiosity and dread, I found myself rummaging through a local thrift store. My hands brushed against faded garments and forgotten trinkets until I spied her, a VHS tape resting casually upon a rickety shelf. The words, "The Original Grinch," were written in faded script across the front, and there were no further markings. My fingers trembled as I lifted it. It felt warm, almost alive against the cold of the surrounding objects. When I arched an eyebrow and glanced around, the couple at the register merely exchanged glances, as if sharing a silent pact of denial. I shoved the tape into my bag, my heart racing faster than my thoughts could catch up. Once home, I popped the tape into the bulky player that had seen better days. As the screen flickered to life, the room filled with static before the animation finally took form. A sepulchral tone enveloped me. The colors, while bright, felt washed out, unnaturally dulled, as if the cheerful facade was peeling away. I sat on the edge of my couch, anticipation tinged with dread. In this version, the Grinch's eyes glimmered disturbingly, animated with an eerie depth that seemed to challenge reality itself. He watched the Who's not from a place of misunderstanding, but from an unfathomable malice. It felt as if his malevolent laughter resonated through time, echoing back to mock me. The scene shifted towards the film's end. Much to my horror, the merry once-whos did not gather in song at the foot of Mount Crumpet. Instead, they stood in a tableau of despair, their expressions frozen in terror. They looked up at the Grinch, who, rather than softening, gazed down with a sinister grin that stretched across his face like a jagged wound. I was paralyzed, surrounded by shadows in the dim light of my living room, which felt somehow colder now. And then I felt it, a scratching sound, like nails on wood, emanating from behind me, creeping in from the darkness. Thoughts of my childhood disillusioned. Every bit of magic seemed to splinter and rot before my eyes. Panic gripped my throat as I turned to see what loomed there. Nothing. Just shadows, swirling. Still unnerved, I forced myself to rewatch certain scenes, hoping to find familiarity within the dissonance. The Grinch spoke lines that were darker, twisted in an unfamiliar repeat. Each recitation morphed, each laugh sharper. The original jollity erased from the fabric. I shut off the tape, heart racing, and sought solace in my mother. My fingers drummed nervously against the kitchen table where she sipped peppermint tea, blissfully unaware of the tangible unease coiling around my heart. "Did you ever hear of the Christmas that never was, Mom?" I asked, wincing as the words tumbled out in a rush. She blinked, confusion knitting her brow. "No, honey, just the Grinch, you know. Why?" I shook my head, feeling like a fool, swallowing the anxiety that now coursed through my veins. "Just curious, I guess." A cold draft whisked through the kitchen, tousling my hair, and for a moment I thought I heard a low whisper, a voice tucked away in the folds of reality, lacing itself within the fabric of winter storytelling. Something was not right. As I returned to my room, more determined to cleanse my mind of what I had seen, I caught a barely perceptible movement out of the corner of my eye. Was it a trick of the shadows, a figment of a racing mind? The absurd idea that I could be losing grasp on my sanity did not escape me. But little did I know, I was no longer alone in the confines of my home. The tales of curses and shadows were edging closer, weaving into the tapestry of my reality. At that moment, I felt the heavy stare of something sinister lurking just beyond the edge of familiarity. And like the quiet rustle of snow underfoot, I could feel the invitation to step deeper into the darkness. The moment where innocence teeters on the precipice, waiting to tumble down into infinity. The tape that should not exist. I stood in the dim light of my bedroom. The dusty VHS tape I discovered at a thrift store gripped tightly in my hands. Titled, "The Original Grinch," it felt ominous, strange in its forbidding simplicity. I could not shake off the unease of it all, as if I was holding a piece of something forbidden. The label was worn, the letters barely legible, as if it too had come from an alternate reality. I set the tape in my old VCR, my heart pounding with a strange mix of fear and excitement. As I pressed play, the whir of the machine filled the room, a mechanical gurgle that felt like an incantation. The screen flickered to life, casting a flickering glow that danced across my walls. The animation that unfolded was disjointed, reminding me of the early days of animation, gritty and raw. The colors, eerily muted, made the Grinch's green skin look almost sickly, as shadows danced across his face in a way that seemed almost alive. It took me a moment to realize I had never seen this version of the Christmas tale. Something about it felt wrong, as if I had stumbled upon a dream where reality warped and twisted into something dark and sinister. The familiar scenes unfolded, yet the textures were grimmer. The Whos of Whoville were rendered in grotesque detail. Their joyful songs now muted. They moved in slow, jerky motions, their eyes glazed as they murmured to one another. I watched, entranced yet horrified, as they gathered around a tree that lacked the bright ornaments I remembered. Instead, its branches drooped under the weight of blackened fruit, decaying, malignant. I leaned closer to the screen, a chill settling into my bones. The joyous clamor of post-Christmas celebration had been replaced by an unsettling static that crawled through the air, echoing with half-formed whispers. I could almost make out words. They sounded like a chant, a melodic incantation that twisted around my mind like thick, black vines. As the story neared its conclusion, I was struck with the absolute absence of laughter, the sound that punctuated every holiday memory I held dear. The Whos, instead of gathering joyfully around their presents, stood frozen in place, staring silently up the mountain at the lone figure of the Grinch. The camera panned slowly, revealing his face. He wasn't simply grinning. He was smiling with a piercing savagery that chilled me to the core. His grin stretched uncomfortably wide, jagged teeth gleaming like shards of glass. He seemed to look directly into my eyes, and for a heartbeat I swore I felt a connection far beyond that of screen and viewer. It personified my worst nightmares, suffused with malignant glee and intent. And then, with a sound like a low, slow growl, the scene shifted. The Grinch raised his hand and I felt it, an almost palpable force pressed against my chest. It felt as if he were reaching through the screen, beckoning me closer. I blinked hard, trying to shake off an encroaching sensation, as whispers morphed into a cacophony, a discordant symphony of my name bellowing into my ear. Take them all. It was my mother's voice, but twisted. The love she used to bathe me in was replaced by frenzy. I gripped the arms of my chair, grounding myself. Rushing into my mind were memories. The faded scent of December pine, the warmth of her embrace while reading the familiar story, the way she'd laugh when I mispronounced Whoville. But now those memories felt like ghosts I could no longer touch, distorted. The name, no one remembers. I woke up startled in the middle of the night, the previous day's events playing back in my mind like a poorly aged film reel. As I lay in bed, a nagging feeling stirred within me, creeping like an unwelcome shadow at the edge of my thoughts. The name, the title of that old Grinch book, was like a phantom pulling at my memory. Determined to seek answers and silence the whispers in the dark, I found my way to the dusty, cluttered confines of the attic once more. Dust motes danced in the beams of moonlight filtering through the small window, illuminating forgotten treasures and discoveries. I could still feel the chill from the book's spine when I first held it, like an icy hand wrapped around my heart. The attic was alive with an oppressive silence, heavy and suffocating, but I ignored it, driven by a need that felt almost primal. Shuffling through cardboard boxes labeled with faded markers, I was searching for anything that could give me clarity. Books, Old letters and photographs crammed every space like ghosts of the past. Then, something caught my attention. A corner of a newspaper seemed to peek out from the pile, as if beckoning me closer. With a swift tug, I freed it from the grips of time. The article was yellowed, brittle, and bore the weight of decades, a relic from the 1950s. The headline, obscured by age, read, "First draft of Suez's holiday classic unveiled." My heart began to race as I scanned the paragraphs, each word laden with revelation. The original title was "The Christmas That Never Was," a story that, according to whispers in the industry, was said to invoke a darker magic. My eyes widened as the article spun tales of necromancy and curses, claiming that the original Grinch was not merely a misunderstood creature. Instead, he was a manifestation of something unsettling, an entity that thrived on the despair and misery of others. The twisted intention behind this first draft sent goosebumps racing down my arms. Each mention of the title faded into scribbles or blurriness. Perhaps it was the passage of time, or maybe someone had gone to great lengths to erase it from memory, but it felt deliberate, as if the universe itself conspired to bury the truth. My mind turned wildly dizzy with questions. If the Grinch wasn't merely a character but a vessel of something harmful, it made sense. The twisted ending I had witnessed and the laughter that echoed in my sleepless nights. It was almost as if he fed on the sorrow of the Who's, their cheerful carols silenced in the face of his dark victim. But that soothed me little, as a creeping dread settled in my gut. Suddenly, a scratching sound reverberated through the attic, a sharp scraping noise like fingernails on wood. My heart raced as I whipped around. The stillness of the room had transformed. Shadows lurked in the corners, shivering with life. With hesitant steps, I moved toward the attic door. Could it be a raccoon? A squirrel? Or perhaps something far more sinister? Just as I reached for the knob, I remembered an old family tale that my grandmother had shared. A story of a family curse, passed down through generations. It had claimed relationships and caused rifts among my relatives, making them strangers to one another. My grasp on the knob faltered. What if the family curse had roots deeper than I believed, maybe entwined with something dark and magical? After all, I had always felt disconnected from my family, an outsider among them. Memories of distant whispers at family gatherings slipped into my thoughts. Hushed conversations that fell silent when I entered the room. "Stop imagining things," I muttered to myself, shaking off the terrifying possibilities. But deep down, I felt the looming presence, the sense that some unseen force wanted me to remember the Grinch for who or what he really was. But I had to know. I turned my attention back to the newspaper article. It spoke of voices calling out to those who dared to remember the original title, that the Christmas that never was more than a name. It was a harbinger of dark memories, a curse cloaked in holiday cheer. Just then, a memory flashed, a shadowy figure lurking in the back of my mind, someone who had once claimed to dabble in black magic. Cousins? A distant aunt? An eerie feeling washed over me as I recalled how she always seemed too interested in the supernatural, pushing boundaries others hesitated to cross. As I pieced the fragments together, the scratching intensified, now accompanied by soft whispers that slid through the cracks of the attic walls. My pulse quickened. I could hear voices in the shadows, echoing distorted laughter, mixing with the sinister scratching. "Remember!" the whispers intoned, chilling me to my bones. The weight of realization pressed down upon me. Maybe this wasn't about the book. It was about family secrets harnessing dark forces reaching through time, binding us to a narrative far scarier than childhood memories of that green creature. The room grew colder, and the figures began to emerge from the shadows. Familial faces distorted by malevolence, their wide grins mirroring the Grinch's sinister smile. Outside, the snowy ground crunched underfoot, something moving near the window. Anxiety bubbled within me, tangling tightly with fear as I turned. The chill spread through my chest, driving the need to escape. But the whispers tightened their grip, insistent, echoing in my mind. And then the Grinch took them too. I had become part of the story, woven into the fabric of something dark and twisted, far beyond my understanding. The laughter crescendoed, now a maddening symphony surrounding me as I sprinted towards the door. But before I could grasp the knob, the shadows converged and the attic seemed to close in around me. And then the Grinch took them. The darkness beckoned, the voice in the dark. The clock ticked loudly in the silence of the house, each second digging into the quiet like a shovel breaking ground in the frozen earth. I tried to ignore the rhythmic thud of my heart, the unsettling pulse that thrummed through the stillness, drawing me toward the old book still perched on my bedside table. The once vibrant green cover of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas now appeared duller, the edges curling as if age and time had worn it down. Somehow, it felt alive. I had barely managed to close my eyes when I heard it. A whisper, bleeding and hushed, crawling through the corners of my mind like the scratching of claws on wood. An unsettling blend of familiar and foreign. It wrapped around my thoughts and pulled me back, tugging me away from sleep. It was a voice that seemed to ripple through the night, carrying a playful malice. The whispers danced just beyond the threshold of comprehension, teasing something deep within me. "What do you want?" I murmured, half hoping this unsettling phenomenon was merely a figment of my tired imagination. "Come closer," the voice beckoned, far too sweet, far too enticing. It tinged the edges of fear as it wrapped around me like the cold winter winds hammering against the window. Goosebumps spread like wildfire across my arms, creating a tug-of-war between apprehension and a peculiar curiosity. Elbowing my way through the dread that settled heavily in my chest, I found my gaze drawn to the book. The name on the cover had changed again. "The Christmas That Never Was." The words twisted and swirled across the surface as if they had a life of their own. The letters crawled like insects across the surface of the book. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas felt like a distant memory, a dream from which I could no longer wake. A shiver slithered down my spine as I reached for it, my fingers trembling as they grazed the cover. It felt oddly warm, infused with a pulse that mirrored my own heartbeat. The strange warmth heightened my anxiety. It felt wrong, like I was inviting darkness over the threshold of my mind. In that haunting moment, the whispers crescendoed, wrapping around me, twisting and weaving into something more sinister. I pressed my ear against the spine of the book, half expecting to hear the impossible. A voice from within, pleading for escape or threatening retribution. Instead, it transformed, taking shape, revealing sorrow and a deep, unquenchable anger. "Return what was taken," it hissed, voice like ice scraping upon steel. The words transcended my understanding, awakening something ancient and primal within me. I retreated, stunned, torn between the pull of the book and the terror brewing in the pit of my stomach. I noticed the last page now bore nothing at all, just an expanse of white devoid of the ending I had so fervently clung to. The empty page felt like an omen, as if it were mocking me, whispering promises of a dark fate, a narrative doomed to repeat. Beyond the pages, I envisioned my family. They had always told me stories when I was young, tales of caution wrapped in cellophane innocence, stories of spirits and shadows, of curses cast under the full moon. They never mentioned this. There had been no warnings, no hex to safeguard against the darkness beckoning to me. Perhaps they were blind to the symptoms I now faced, the cracks forming on the surface of reality, slowly fracturing the world I thought I knew. A flicker of movement from the window caught my attention, the heavy curtains drawn aside just enough to permit a glimpse. My heart raced and I hesitated, mind swirling with images of past family gatherings, laughter morphing into whispers that melded seamlessly with the scratching I now heard. I felt more isolated than ever, even from my own thoughts. I opened the window slightly, not entirely sure why I was driven to do so, expecting the claustrophobic weight of the cold nighttime air to break the spell that gripped me. Instead, the air felt alive, electric with anticipation. Suddenly, low laughter reverberated outside, hollow and haunting. Flickering between the shadows, I glimpsed a tall, slender figure, impossibly thin, wrapped in dark green fabric. It grinned, a sharp and jagged smile that illuminated the night, cutting into the darkness with its unnerving light. The Grinch, or something darker? My mind reeled, and I slammed the window shut, heart hammering like a war drum. But it was too late. The voice returned, this time swirling around me like tendrils of fog. Join us. It lured me with promises of forgotten dreams, memories long lost to time, lost gifts, broken promises. I felt the deep chill of the winter night seep into my bones, while the rising echo of sinister laughter toyed with whatever remained of my sanity. As the air thickened and shadows fluttered at the edges of my room, I wanted nothing more than to scream. But I couldn't. I stood riveted, vibrating with pure fear, the darkness consuming my thoughts, slowly siphoning away my resolve. The whispers burrowed deeper, and I could feel their icy touch. I looked again at the book, its cover seeming to pulse beneath my fingertips, inviting me to lose myself further. In the moment of desperation, I yelled above the din, "Who are you?" The dark voice turned sweeter, honeyed with lies. I am what was lost, what should have never been found. The walls of my reality began to crumble, and I realized then that the book wasn't just a story. It was a portal, a malevolent conduit connecting me to the green shadow. I woke up to an uneasy stillness, the kind of silence that wraps around you like a freshly spun web, intricate and suffocating. Slowly, the details of the night crept back into my mind like gray dawn slipping through heavy curtains. I sat up, still clutching the blanket that smelled faintly of pine and old memories. My heart raced as I remembered the book, the wrong book with its sinister rhymes and the smiling Grinch, that grotesque grin seeming to stretch beyond the bounds of normalcy. A chill swept through the room, despite the heavy quilt around my shoulders. As I turned my gaze toward the window, I noticed the snow blanketing the ground outside. An untouched sheet of white, beautiful and serene, until my eyes fell upon them. Footprints, large elongated prints, marred the pristine surface like dark secrets, spilled across a canvas. They led directly to the edge of my porch, where the world seemed to hold its breath. Who or what could have made those in the night? The only family around were my parents, and they were hours away, basking in the warmth of a holiday spirit, far removed from this. A shiver shot down my spine, making the hairs on my neck stand rigid. I blamed it on the cold, raking a hand through my disheveled hair. But the feeling in my gut told me otherwise. I stood up from the bed, feet bare against the icy floor, each step a hesitant plunge into the unknown. Suddenly, the reflection in the window caught my eye. My heart plummeted. A wide, sharp grin stared back at me, a grotesque mockery of my own visage. My mouth was set in a neutral line, but the reflection and my mind seemed to disagree. The reflection tilted its head, eyes gleaming with a wicked light, as if it knew something I didn't. The laughter began as a whisper, soft and velvety, creeping into my ears like dark smoke. I pressed my hands to my temples, trying to rid myself of the unwelcome sound. It swirled around my mind, echoing memories of family gatherings turned sour and friends who subtly turned into enemies. Faces I recognized became twisted masks, eyes glowing green in the dark. Visions of betrayal underlying the joyous holiday spirit. I remembered my cousin Amelia, always the shadow in family photos, lurking just outside frame, her jealousy always simmering beneath the surface like a pot left too long on the stove. Then there was Jason, my childhood friend, who was less a friend and more a reminder of my inadequacies, casting spells of envy that tangled in the air whenever we played. But the laughter grew louder, more insistent, drowning out my thoughts. My heartbeat quickened, thrumming like a drum warning me of danger looming in the shadows. It was then that I noticed the strands of dark green passageway leading deeper into the woods behind my house, a green so vivid it looked almost alive, as if it were calling me. What I didn't realize was that my feet had begun to move, taking me toward the window, toward the laughter. I reached for the glass, a thin barrier separating reality from something lurking just beyond, something that felt saturated with malevolence. I couldn't help but think of curses, dark spells I had foolishly brushed off as folklore. What if they were real? What if dark magic had twisted the very fabric of my holiday memories into something unrecognizable? As I leaned closer to the glass, the laughter morphed into hushed whispers, intertwining with the wind. I thought I caught my name hidden among the sounds. Was it a warning? What or who was whispering to me from outside? The hair on the back of my neck prickled. Suddenly, the whispers turned sharp, like the sudden crack of ice beneath a foot, sending a jolt of panic through me. I leaned back, breaking the connection, heart racing in tempo with the chaos blooming inside my mind. I staggered away from the window, bumping into the bedside table, the clinking of a glass almost drowned out by the growing cacophony just outside. And then, silence. The kind of silence that makes the hairs on your body stand on end. I peered back out the window, steeling myself for whatever terrible untruth the glass might reveal. But instead of the snow-dusted yard, I saw green. A figure stood beneath the bare branches just beyond the reach of the porch light, tall, thin, and unmistakably the shape of the Grinch. A monstrous parody of my childhood, he stared back at me, that horrid grin stretching across his face. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, piercing through the darkness like a creature from a legend long forgotten. It was as if I were mesmerized, floating between waking and the thin veil of sleep where reality blurs. Moments stretched like taffy, and I felt my sanity tip on its axis. Was I dreaming? The history of my family's Christmases spilled into colored flashes. The warmth of my grandmother's cookies, the laughter of my mother, the gentle giant that was my father slinging toys from Santa on Christmas morning. But now it spun around a dark core, igniting the green shadow who claimed these memories. "Let's play," the Grinch called, that voice so smooth it felt like silk drawn across my skin. I squeezed my eyes shut, the laughter engulfing me, pulling me into the shadows. What had I unleashed? And then through the chaos, a final realization drowned me. The book, the wrong book. It had twisted more than just a story. It was rewriting reality. The room spun, the shadows creeping in. Carnival music played in my head and laughter transformed into screams. I staggered back, my pulse quickening, and when I finally opened my eyes to the window once more, I could only see my own reflection, grinning wildly, the Grinch's laughter echoing inside my skull. As they say, Christmas used to be a time of joy, but for me, it became the beginning of a nightmare, one that held me in its frozen grip, like a curse I could no longer escape. Christmas that never ends. As I stared at the growing pile of strange books on my coffee table, a chill swept through the room, wrapping around me like a thin fog. Every copy of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, and there had been 5, had transformed overnight. They all bore the wrong title, mocking my memories. In its place was the eerie inscription that haunted me. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. It felt as if the very books were laughing at me. I raced to my laptop, desperately typing in variations of my childhood treasure, trying to conjure the evidence that once existed. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Original title, Dr. Seuss's first edition. But as I hit search, my heart sank. The results returned empty, like an abyss where my memories used to thrive. It was as though my childhood was being erased, like footprints in the snow, each nothing more than another memory lost in the drifts. In the throes of panic, the air around me began to grow heavy, thick with an unsettling tension. I felt as if eyes were watching me, judgmentally, from the shadows. That's when it happened. My television flickered to life of its own accord, startling me. The screen glowed with an eerie light, a window into a realm I had never wanted to glimpse. Lured closer, I felt drawn into the flickering screen. Images of Whoville appearing were not the ones I remembered. There was a palpable dread encasing me, every frame feeding the ominous atmosphere. And then came the familiar figure of the Grinch, but there was something different about him. He appeared lifelike, every detail more vivid, more haunting. As the reel played on, he stepped closer to the screen, his thin green fingers stretching out towards me. "Welcome to my Christmas," his voice whispered, low as if carried on a breeze, and colder than an icicle. I stumbled back, my heart pounding like a drum in a parade I no longer wanted to belong to. But I was almost entranced, unable to look away. Suddenly, I was aware of the whispers surrounding me, the soft murmurs floating through the air, echoing off the walls. Let's play, forever and ever." The words turned my blood to ice. I felt my own inner discord unraveling, the strands of my sanity fraying and fraying, much like fragile thread helpless against the weight of a reality I now struggled to comprehend. The whispers crescendoed, filling every crevice of my mind, as snippets of conversations from childhood floated into my consciousness. My parents, my friends, and my enemies all overlapping, spiraling into chaos. A realization struck me. This wasn't just about a book that should never have existed. The whispers, the shifting shadows, the Grinch. Something darker was at play. My thoughts drifted to Aunt Shelley, a family member from my past who had dabbled in the supernatural. She had always warned against mixing holiday cheer with the metaphysical. Strange rituals whispered after holiday joy could unleash a curse. I had dismissed her words as nonsense, but now they echoed in my mind. Had she conjured something that now sought me? I tried to shake off the rising dread. My fingers trembled as I grasped for the remote, desperate to turn the TV off. But to my horror, the button seemed to have lost function, rendering me a spectator in this haunting performance. The animation on screen began to distort. The Who's faces morphed into grotesque masks of sorrow. Their gesture-like grins stretched unnaturally wide. They stood frozen in place, their eyes trained not on the mountain but on me, filled with a ghastly desire. With intense focus, I remembered a charm Aunt Shelley had shown me. A protection spell involving the white candle she always kept lit during the holidays. I felt the compulsion to summon some kind of magic, something that could save me from whatever horror was unfolding in front of me. I forced myself to concentrate, to remember. As if my thoughts resonated with the ethereal whispers, I heard their discordant harmonies soften. Light, light, they chanted, but I was already terrified at what I could invoke. The candle! I needed a candle. Any candle that could protect me from this unseen horror. I dashed into the kitchen, my heart racing, and hastily rummaged through the drawers, throwing aside party napkins and forgotten utensils until I found the solitary white candle. Shaking, I lit it with a kitchen match, and as the flame flickered to life, its glow cut through the shadows like the dawn breaking after a long night. The whispers recoiled, becoming quieter, almost pained. The darkness seemed to retreat, curling away like smoke as I held the candle tightly, pouring all my will into the feeble flame. The television screen crackled as the Grinch, now distorted and pale, leaned closer, his mouth twisting into a sinister grin. Was this the end? No one escaped, he hissed, his finger outstretched as the shadows behind him coalesced into a swirling mass of green and black. But before he could take one more step, the candle flared brilliantly, sending waves of warmth through my chest, igniting an ancient force within me. I focused the energy, sending it forth as I commanded, "Leave me!" The screen exploded in a burst of icy pixels, and the room plunged into darkness. In those final moments, as the laughter echoed and faded, I realized the Christmas that never was not just a book but a living horror, one that could consume not just me, but everything and everyone I loved. The last vestiges of sound faded into silence, and for a moment, I felt peace. But deep down in the recesses of my mind, I knew that this was not over. I could still hear a whisper, an echo dancing in the hollowness of my heart, forever and ever. The story rewrites itself, Christmas that never was. The clock on my nightstand ticked steadily, each second echoing like a sinister reminder of all that had transpired. Just hours ago, I had been a skeptic, a witness to the unsettling phenomenon of the Mandela effect. Now, lost in the labyrinth of altered memories and shadowy figures, there was an unsettling shift in the air, a tension that hummed beneath the surface. I felt the familiar weight of the book pressing on my mind, drawing me toward it like an unholy pact. Suddenly, in the pale light of the moon filtering through the curtains, the book appeared again as if materializing from the very darkness I feared. Its covers were the same faded green, but there was an unnatural gleam glistening on the surface. I swallowed hard, the chill creeping up my spine once more, but curiosity pulled my hands toward it. With a tentative grasp, I lifted the book, feeling an electric charge run through me like a jolt of white magic battling against something dark. As I opened it, the pages fluttered like the wings of trapped moths, anxious to escape. But instead of the covetous rhyme I'd grown up with, I was met with a new last page, jaggedly torn, as if someone had forced it into existence. The words on the page seemed alive, morphing and twisting to tell a tale. not of whoos and Christmas cheer, but of isolation and terror. The page described me. It began innocently enough, mapping my childhood, my love for animated specials, and then it shifted. It dripped into the recesses of my mind where my family's laughter echoed long ago, now twisted into malicious cackles that filled the room with an ethereal chill. Memories flooded back. The joy of Christmas morning, hugging my parents, playing in the snow with my brother. An image of my older brother, now estranged and living in another state, flickered in my mind, flashing reminders of our arguments, a rivalry that turned sour. A warning pulsed around the edges of the text. It described how I'd never found the Grinch amusing, how I wished to be free of the expectations of family gatherings, and the oftentimes suffocating love they expressed. There was even an oblique reference to my childhood friend, Jacob, a boy with an uncanny obsession with magic tricks. Black magic, he called it, and the rituals he practiced in the woods behind our school. My head spun as the last line emerged, ominous and heavy. And then the Grinch took them too. At that instant I heard it, the distant sound of laughter, a grotesque echo that seeped into the room from the dark corners of my mind. It bounced off the walls, teasing me, growing louder and more malevolent. I knew that laughter. It belonged to Jacob. The prankster who had once dazzled me with illusions now felt like a harbinger of doom. Did he invoke something during those rituals long ago? Was this darkness a remnant of his intent, lingering like a curse, waiting for someone foolish enough to open the door? A sudden gust of wind rattled the window panes. I could feel my breath hitching. Horror was closing in. It crept along the floorboards, wrapping around my ankles like a constricting snake. The book shivered in my hands, the pages of the story flipping rapidly until they settled on the chapter I had dreaded, the one where the Grinch kept the Christmas spirit for himself. I could almost hear Jacob's voice, chanting in the suffocating dark. Careful what you wish for. The Christmas spirit can be a vicious thing. The room was no longer mine. The close-knit familiarity shattered under the weight of something evil, something clawing at the edges of reality. I glanced outside, and in the whiteness of the snow, the footprints began to form. Large, green-tinted tracks that reminded me of the Grinch's manic gait. My gaze refocused on my reflection in the window, and my heart stopped. I looked back at a stranger with a grin that stretched across my face, too wide, too inhuman. I wasn't smiling. I staggered back, but the whispers grew louder, coalescing into a cacophony of overlapping voices. My family's laughter twisted into screams. The ghosts of family memories morphed into twilight shadows. Joke tellers changed into puppet masters taunting from the edges of the grave. Then came the scratching, sharp, relentless. It clawed at my sanity, reverberating in my brain with every repeat. I stumbled over furniture driven by an instinct to escape, but where was the escape? I turned back to the book, desperate to reclaim me. The house that knew my name. I never believed in fate, ghosts, or destiny. But the night I returned home, I realized some places remember you even when you've forgotten them. It began with a phone call. My mother's voice, weak and trembling, cut through the static like a knife. "Something is wrong with the house," she said, her words barely above a whisper. I pressed the phone closer to my ear, trying to make sense of her words. The line crackled and I could hear the faint hum of the television in the background. My mother never called late at night unless something was wrong. What do you mean? What's wrong with the house? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She hesitated, and for a moment, I thought the line had gone dead. Then she whispered, "It is the walls." Before I could ask anything else, she hung up. I stood there, staring at the phone in my hand, my mind racing. My mother wasn't one to panic easily. She was the kind of person who faced problems head-on, never flinching. But something about her voice that night sent a chill down my spine. I packed a small bag and left that same night. The drive home was long, the GPS leading me down winding roads that seemed to twist endlessly through the darkness. The trees grew taller as I approached our old neighborhood, their branches creaking in the wind. The sound was like an old rusty gate swinging shut. Squeak, squeak. When I finally turned onto our street, the familiar sight of our house came into view. It sat at the end of a dead road, shrouded in oak trees that seemed to lean in, as if they were trying to listen. The house looked exactly as I remembered it, pale yellow with a porch that sagged slightly in the middle. But something about it felt different. The air around it seemed heavier, like the house was holding its breath. I stepped out of the car, the gravel crunching under my feet. The night was quiet, except for the occasional hoot of an owl in the distance. I grabbed my bag and walked toward the house, my heart pounding in my chest. The front door creaked when I pushed it open. The sound echoed through the empty hallway. "Hello?" I called out, but there was no answer. My mother wasn't there. She was staying with my aunt, she'd said. I closed the door behind me and looked around. The house was exactly as I had left it years ago. The same faded wallpaper, the same chandelier hanging crookedly from the ceiling, the same smell of old wood and dust. But there was something else in the air, something I couldn't quite place. It was faint, like a memory I couldn't quite grasp. And then I saw it. At the end of the hallway, just past my childhood bedroom, a narrow wooden door stood slightly ajar. It looked old, much older than the house itself. I was certain it hadn't been there before. I should have turned away. I should have left. But something inside me needed to know. I pushed the door open slowly, my heart racing. The room was beyond a child's bedroom. The furniture was outdated, covered in a thin layer of dust, yet untouched by time. There were drawings on the walls, stick figures of a family. My parents, my mother, and me. But in every picture, there was another figure. A boy with no face. I felt something shift behind me, a whisper of breath against my ear. "You forgot me." The door slammed shut. I spun around, but there was no one there. The air in the room seemed to thicken, and I could feel eyes on me. I tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as I pounded on the wood, my fists making dull thuds. Thud, 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 thud. Finally, the door creaked open. I stumbled out into the hallway, gasping for air. The house seemed to hum around me, the walls vibrating with a low, ominous tone. I ran. I didn't stop until I was back in my car, speeding away from the house. But as I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw something that made my blood run cold. In the upstairs window of the house, a shadow stood watching. And from the back seat of the car, I heard breathing. The call home. The phone rang at 2:47 a.m., slicing through the silence of my apartment like a blade. I groaned, rolling over to squint at the glowing screen. My heart skipped a beat when I saw the name flashing. Mom Biddy. It was rare for her to call, rarer still for her to call so late. Something was wrong. I picked up, my voice croaky with sleep. "Mom, what's going on?" There was a pause, and for a moment I wondered if the line had gone dead. Then I heard. Her voice was trembling barely above a whisper. "Something is wrong with the house." I sat up, rubbing my eyes. "What? What do you mean?" Another pause. "I can't explain over the phone. You need to come home." "Come home?" I repeated, disbelief creeping into my tone. I hadn't set foot in that house in years, not since I'd left for college and never looked back. "Mom, what's going on? You're scaring me." "It's the walls," she whispered. They remember things, and I can't sleep. I'm staying with Aunt Clara for now, but you need to come, please." Before I could press her further, the line went dead. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. My mother wasn't one for drama. She was practical, grounded. If she was scared enough to call me in the middle of the night, something was very wrong. I tossed the covers off and stood, padding to the kitchen to grab a glass of water. My reflection caught my eye in the window pane, haunted, sleep-deprived. My hair was a mess, and there were dark circles under my eyes. I looked like I'd seen a ghost, but I hadn't. Not yet. By the time I arrived home, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The house sat at the end of a dead road, just as I remembered it. It was an old Victorian, its white paint peeling, its wrap-around porch creaking in the gentle breeze. Oak trees towered over it, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching for the roof. The house looked exactly the same, yet different. As I stepped out of the car, a chill ran down my spine. The air felt heavier here, as if the very atmosphere had thickened. I could smell the familiar scent of pine and earth. But there was something else underneath, a faint, metallic tang that didn't belong. I took a deep breath and walked toward the house. The front door creaked as I pushed it open, the sound echoing through the empty hallway. My sneakers squeaked against the polished wooden floor. The house was quiet, too quiet. No creaks, no groans, just an oppressive stillness. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing. "Mom, you here?" There was no answer. Of course there wasn't. She was staying with Aunt Clara, but she'd said something about the walls, and now the house felt alive. I dropped my bag on the floor and moved room to room, flipping on lights. The kitchen was spotless, the dishes stacked neatly in the rack. A faint layer of dust coated everything, but it was otherwise unchanged. Upstairs, my childhood bedroom was just as I'd left it. Posters of my favorite bands on the wall, a pile of old video games on the desk. But something felt off. The bed was made, but the comforter was pulled too tight, as if someone had just smoothed it out. The toy chest in the corner was locked, its rusted padlock glinting in the dim light. I could have sworn I'd left it open. I turned to leave, but a faint meow stopped me. "Mittens?" I called, crouching down. Our old cat had been a stray I'd brought home as a kid. She'd been gone for years, but the sound sent a pain through my chest. When there was no response, I stood, shaking my head. Just my imagination. As I reached the top of the stairs, I noticed something I hadn't before. At the end of the hall, just past my bedroom door, there was a narrow wooden door. It was slightly ajar, and it looked old. Older than the house itself. I was sure it hadn't been there before. My heart quickened as I approached it, my hand reaching out to touch the doorknob. "Who's there?" a voice called from downstairs. I froze. my breath catching. "Mom." "No," someone else replied. "It's Aunt Clara. I've been waiting for you." Relief washed over me as I stepped away from the strange door and made my way downstairs. Aunt Clara was sitting in the living room, her hands crossed in her lap. She was a thin, wiry woman with sharp features and a downturned mouth. She'd always been cold, distant, but there was something in her eyes now that I didn't recognize. "She called you," Aunt Clara said, her voice low. "She wouldn't tell me what's going on, just kept saying the house wasn't right." "Do you know what's wrong with it?" I asked. Aunt Clara hesitated, glancing around the room as if she feared being overheard. "Your mother, she's been hearing things, whispers, and the walls. She said they feel warm at night, like something's pressing against them from the inside." I frowned. "And you, do you feel anything?" "No," she said quickly, standing. "I don't feel anything, but I think your mother's losing her grip. She's always been fragile. Since your father left, she's been—" "Stop," I said sharply. My father had left when I was a kid, and my mother had never remarried. It was a sore subject, one we rarely discussed. "This isn't about Dad, is it?" Aunt Clara shook her head. "I didn't say that, I think she needs help. Professional help." Before I could respond, a faint scratching sound filled the air. It was low and rhythmic, like fingernails on a chalkboard. I froze, my eyes locked onto Aunt Clara's. "What was that?" I whispered. She didn't answer. Instead, she grabbed her purse and stood. "I need to go. I'll leave you two to talk." "Aunt Clara, wait." But she was already out the door, leaving me alone in the house. The scratching grew louder, more insistent. My heart pounded in my chest as I turned to face the stairs. The sound seemed to be coming from upstairs, from the room at the end of the hall, the room with the door that hadn't been there before. I took a step forward, then another, my legs trembling. The scratching stopped abruptly, leaving behind an oppressive silence. I swallowed hard and reached for the doorknob. It was cold to the touch, and it turned with a groan. As the door creaked open, a faint whisper echoed in my ear. "Welcome home." The door that was not there. The house loomed before me, its familiar silhouette warped by the dim light of the setting sun. The oak trees surrounding it swayed in the wind, their branches creaking softly, like old bones shifting in the grave. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and something else, something sweet, almost nauseating. I stepped inside, my sneakers scuffling against the wooden floorboards. The sound echoed through the empty halls, a lonely reminder that I was not alone. Or was I? The house felt off. It was as if every room had shifted slightly, like a painting that had been touched up by an unsteady hand. My childhood bedroom was the first place I went. The bed was still there, the same patchwork quilts my grandmother had made, but it was pushed against the wrong wall. My desk sat in the corner, its drawers slightly ajar, as though someone had recently gone through them. And the toy chest, Old Tom I used to call it, was locked. I don't remember ever locking it. The rusted padlock gleamed faintly in the dim light, and when I touched it, it felt colder than the air around it. "What the hell?" I muttered to myself. I turned the key in my mind, tried to remember the last time I'd opened the chest. It had been years, maybe even decades, but I was certain I hadn't locked it. I gave the lock a tug, and to my surprise it creaked open. Inside, the toys were exactly as I'd left them. A stuffed rabbit with one missing eye, a broken action figure, A stack of comic books yellowed with age, but something about them felt wrong. The air inside the chest was stale, and there was a faint scent of mildew, as though the toys had been buried in the ground. I closed the chest and stepped back, my eyes scanning the room. The furniture wasn't the only thing that felt misplaced. The walls seemed to press in on me, the shadows cast by the afternoon light twisting into shapes that didn't belong. I could have sworn I heard a faint whisper like a child's laugh, but when I turned to listen, there was nothing. Downstairs, I found my mother in the kitchen. She was sitting at the table, a cup of tea in front of her, her hands trembling. Her eyes were sunken, her skin pale, and there were dark circles under her eyes. She looked older, as though the weight of the world had settled on her shoulders since I'd last seen her. "Mom," I said, sitting down across from her. "What's going on? You said something's wrong with the house. What does that even mean?" She stared at her tea, her lips pressing together in a thin line. "I don't know. It's just things have been happening. Doors opening on their own. Noises at night. And the walls?" She shuddered. "I could swear I feel something moving inside them." "Mom, maybe you're just stressed. You've been through a lot." "No," she interrupted, her voice sharp. "You don't understand. This house, it's different now. It's like it's watching me, waiting for something." I sighed, trying to keep my tone even. "There's no one here, Mom. The house is empty. You're just spooking yourself." She looked up at me, her eyes haunted. "You don't remember, do you?" "Remember what?" She hesitated, then shook her head. "Nothing. It's just, I think you should talk to your aunt. She might know something." I raised an eyebrow. "Aunt Clara? What does she have to do with this?" "She's been acting strange too. She won't come near the house. She says it's not safe." I stood, pushing my chair back. "I'll go talk to her. But Mom, I need you to calm down. This isn't like you." She nodded, but her eyes stayed wide, her hands still shaking. I left her there and walked to my aunt's house, which was just a few blocks away. The air felt heavier with every step, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Twice I heard a faint scratching sound, like fingernails on wood, but when I turned to look, there was nothing there. Aunt Clara answered the door before I could knock. She was a tall, imposing woman with a sharp jaw and piercing green eyes that seemed to see right through me. She didn't smile when she saw me, just stepped aside and let me in. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the couch. "We need to talk." I sat, my hands clasped together in my lap. "What's going on, Aunt Clara? Mom's really scared. She said something about the house being wrong." Clara sat across from me, her posture rigid. "The house has a memory, you know. It remembers things, even when people forget." I rolled my eyes. "That's just an old house settling. It doesn't have a memory." "Don't dismiss what you don't understand," she snapped. "That house has seen things we've tried to forget, things we've tried to bury." I leaned forward, my voice softening. "What are you talking about? What things?" She hesitated, then glanced around the room as though she was afraid of being overheard. "There was a boy," she whispered. "A boy who lived in that house. Your brother." "What brother?" Clara's eyes locked on mine, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "You don't remember, do you? You don't remember him? Who are you talking about?" I demanded. "I don't have a brother." She sighed, her shoulders slumping. "I knew you wouldn't remember. They made sure of it. They erased him like he never existed. But the house remembers. The house always remembers. Who erased him? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Clara just shook her head. I shouldn't have said anything. Just be careful, okay? That house isn't what it seems. I left her house more confused than when I'd arrived. The sun had set by then, and the streetlights cast long shadows on the ground. The scratching sound followed me back to the house, louder now, more insistent. I tried to ignore it, but it was there, echoing in my mind like a mantra. When I got back to the house, I went straight to my room. The toy chest was still locked, and the furniture still felt misplaced. But now there was something new. A door. It was at the end of the hallway just past my bedroom. It wasn't there before, I was sure of it. It was narrow, made of dark wood, and it stood slightly ajar as though inviting me to come closer. I approached it slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. The scratching sound seemed to be coming from the other side of the door, and it had grown louder, more urgent. I reached out to touch the handle, my hand trembling. Before I could, a voice spoke behind me. You shouldn't be here. I spun around, but there was no one there. The hallway was empty, the only sound the creaking of the old wooden floorboards. I turned back to the door, my breath catching in my throat. It was open now, just a crack. I could see a sliver of light on the other side and something else. A shadow. It moved, shifted, and then was gone. I stepped back, my heart racing. I should have left. I should have walked away. But I couldn't. Something inside me needed to know. I pushed the door open, my hand shaking, and stepped through. The room on the other side was small, barely big enough for the single bed that sat in the center. The walls were painted a pale blue, and there were drawings on them. Stick figures of a family. My family. My mother. My father. And me. But there was another figure too. A boy. He was in every picture, but his face was scribbled out, erased with a black marker. I felt a chill run down my spine as I stared at the drawings, a sense of unease settling in the pit of my stomach. And then I heard it. A faint whisper, soft and raspy, like someone was breathing directly into my ear. You forgot me. The forgotten room. The door creaked as I pushed it open, the sound echoing through the hallway like a warning. The room beyond was shrouded in a thick layer of dust, the air heavy with the scent of decay and forgotten memories. My heart pounded in my chest as I stepped inside, each creak of the wooden floorboards beneath my feet reverberating through the silence. The room was a child's bedroom, untouched by time yet aged as if decades had passed. The walls were covered in faint, childlike drawings, stick figures of a family. My parents, my mother, and me. But in every picture there was another figure, a boy with a face scribbled out in black. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I approached the wall, my fingers tracing the rough sketches. Suddenly, a faint meow echoed through the room, making me jump. I turned, but there was no cat. The silence that followed was oppressive, and I could feel eyes watching me. I tried to shake the feeling, focusing instead on the drawings. The boy with no face was in every picture, his presence haunting. My mind raced. Could this be a brother I never knew? The thought sent a wave of dread through me. I must be imagining things, I told myself. But the whisper in my ear made me spin around. You forgot me. The words were barely audible, but they sent chills down my spine. The door slammed shut behind me, and I was plunged into darkness. I fumbled for the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped. The air grew thicker, and I could feel a presence around me, the forgotten brother's energy lingering in the shadows. I stumbled through the darkness, my hands brushing against old furniture. A toy chest in the corner caught my eye. It slid slightly ajar. Inside, I found a stuffed rabbit, its once soft fur now matted and old. As I picked it up, I heard a faint whisper, "Mine." I dropped it, my breath coming in short gasps. The room began to shift, the walls closing in. I felt a hand on my shoulder, but there was no one there. The whisper grew louder, "You forgot me." I spun around, but the room was empty. The drawings on the wall seemed to pulse with a life of their own, the faceless boy reaching out to me. Suddenly, a door creaked open, and I staggered out into the hallway, gasping for air. The house seemed to hum with a malevolent energy, the walls watching me as I retreated to my room. I locked the door, but the whisper followed me, echoing in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing my grip on reality. Was I hallucinating? Or was the house truly alive, reminding me of a past I had forgotten? The thought of a brother I never knew haunted me, and I couldn't help but wonder if he was real. As I lay in bed, the whisper grew fainter, but the presence remained. I knew then that the house held secrets, and I was just beginning to uncover them. The forgotten room was just the start, and I was trapped in a nightmare from which I might never awaken. The scratching in the walls. The house was quiet that night, the kind of quiet that made you feel like you were the only person left in the world. I had barely slept, my mind racing with questions about the door, the room, and the boy with no face. My mother had avoided talking about it, saying only that she didn't know anything about the door, the drawings. But the way she glanced at the hallway, her eyes flicking nervously toward the spot where the door stood, told me she was hiding something. I spent the day pacing, trying to make sense of it all. My aunt came over, her usual cheerful self, but even she seemed uneasy. She stayed in the kitchen, humming softly as she cleaned. But every so time, she'd glance at me and then quickly look away. When I asked her about the door, she just shook her head and muttered, "Family secrets, child. Some things are better left forgotten." But I couldn't forget. The door, the room, the drawings, they all felt too real, too personal to ignore. And then, that night, the scratching started. It was faint at first, just a soft tap, tap, tap in the walls. I froze, my heart pounding, and listened. It stopped. I told myself it was just the house settling, old wood creaking in the cold. But then it started again, louder this time, more insistent. Scratch, scratch, bark. It sounded like something was trying to claw its way out. I sat up in bed, my breath catching in my throat. The noise wasn't just in one wall. It was everywhere, echoing through the house like something was moving, crawling inside the very bones of the place. I threw off the covers and walked to the wall, pressing my ear against it. The scratching was rhythmic, almost deliberate, like a code. Tap, tap, pause. Tap, tap, pause. It sent a shiver down my spine. My mother had told me the noises started right before she left. I couldn't take it anymore, she'd said, her voice trembling. It was like something was trying to get in. Now, as I stood there, I felt it too. Whatever was making that noise, it was trying to get my attention. And then, as suddenly as it had started, it stopped. The silence was worse, heavier, like the house itself was holding its breath. I tried to convince myself it was just a mouse or a raccoon, something harmless. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't an animal. This was something else. And then I saw it. On my bed, right where I had thrown my pillow aside, was the stuffed animal from the forgotten room. The one with the button eyes and the faded red bow tie. It was sitting there, perfectly still, as if someone had placed it there intentionally. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't even gone near it since I found it in that room. I stared at it, my heart racing, my hands shaking. How did it get here? I was alone in the house. My mother was at my aunt's, and my aunt had left hours ago. There was no one else. And yet, there it was. I reached out, hesitating, and then pulled my hand back. Something about the toy felt wrong, like it was watching me. The button eyes seemed to glint in the dim light, and the stitched smile looked more like a sneer. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to be near it, but I couldn't just leave it there either. I grabbed a towel from the bathroom and wrapped it around the toy, then shoved it into the back of my closet. Out of sight, out of mind, I told myself. But even as I closed the closet door, I could have sworn I heard a faint, muffled whisper. "You forgot me." I slammed the door shut and leaned against it, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I needed to calm down. I needed to think, but my mind was a mess, spinning with questions and fears and half-remembered memories. Who was that boy in the drawings? Why was he always scribbled out? And what did he have to do with me? The scratching started again, louder now, more insistent. It was in the walls, in the floorboards, even in the ceiling. It was everywhere. I pressed my hands over my ears, but I could still hear it. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was relentless, driving me to the edge. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I grabbed my phone and called my mother. She answered on the first ring, her voice nervous. "What is it? Is everything okay?" "The scratching," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's back, and there's this toy. It showed up in my room." She sighed, a long, shaky breath. "I told you, something's wrong with the house. I didn't want to tell you, but I think it's looking for something, or someone." "Looking for who?" I demanded. There was a pause on the other end of the line. "You. It's looking for you." I laughed, a harsh, nervous sound. "What are you talking about? This isn't funny." "It's not a joke," she snapped. "You need to be careful. Whatever is in that house, it's not what it seems. And it's not just the house. It's him." "Him? Who is him?" But she just hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, my mind racing. Who was him? And why was my mother so scared to talk about it? The scratching stopped again, and for a moment there was silence. Then faintly I heard footsteps. Light, careful footsteps. They were coming from the hallway. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. I could feel a presence there, something pressing against the other side of the door. And then softly I heard it, a whisper. "You forgot me?" I screamed, but when I threw open the door, there was nothing there. No one. Just the empty hallway, the faint scent of dust and decay lingering in the air. I slammed the door shut and locked it, my hands shaking. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't stay here. I couldn't face whatever was in these walls, haunting this house, haunting me. I grabbed my bag and ran. I didn't look back. I didn't dare. The videotape. The attic was a mayhem of memories, a place where time seemed to have forgotten its own rhythm. Dust motes floated lazily in the faint light that seeped through the grimy window. like tiny, weightless dancers. The air was thick with the scent of decay and forgotten years, a musty smell that clung to every breath I took. My flashlight flickered, casting long shadows across the trunks, boxes, and old furniture that filled the space. It was as if the attic itself was alive, watching me as I dug through the remnants of a life I thought I knew. I'd been searching for answers for hours, ever since I'd found that strange door in the hallway. My mother had denied any knowledge of it, her eyes avoiding mine as she spoke. "I don't know what you're talking about," she'd said, her voice trembling. But my aunt, her sister, had hesitated before mumbling something about old secrets and things better left alone. She'd refused to say more, leaving me with more questions than ever. Now, here I was rummaging through the attic, hoping to find something, anything, that could explain what was happening. And then, buried beneath an old stack of newspapers, I saw it. A VHS tape, its label worn but still legible. "Summer, all of us," it read. The words sent a shiver down my spine. I didn't remember this tape, but something about it felt familiar. I made my way downstairs, the tape clutched in my hand. The house felt heavier with each step, as if it were pressing down on me, trying to keep me from uncovering the truth. I pushed the thought aside and focused on the task at hand. I needed to see what was on this tape. The living room was dimly lit, the only sound the soft hum of the old TV in the corner. I hadn't turned it on in years, but to my surprise, it still worked. The VHS player, however, was a different story. It took me a few tries to get it to accept the tape, the mechanism whirring and clicking before finally swallowing it with a deep, metallic thunk. I sat down on the couch, my heart pounding in my chest. The TV screen flickered to life, filling the room with static. The sound was like a hiss, sharp and piercing, making my ears ache. I winced, but didn't look away. Slowly, the static began to clear, replaced by a shaky, handheld image of our backyard. It was summer, just like the labels said. The sun was bright, casting long shadows across the grass. I recognized the swing set, the old oak tree, the picnic table where we used to eat. But what caught my attention was the group of people in the video. There was my mother, younger and smiling, her hair tied back in a ponytail. My father was there too, standing behind her with his arms crossed, a rare smile on his face. And then there was me, a younger me, running around in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, laughing as I chased after a ball. But there was someone else, a boy. He was a little taller than me, with messy brown hair and a shirt that looked like it belonged to me. He was laughing, running, playing, just like I was. But his face, it was there, and then it wasn't. One moment, I could see him clearly, and the next, his features would blur, glitching in and out as if the tape itself was struggling to hold his image. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Who was this boy? And why couldn't I remember him? As I watched, my younger self and the boy climbed into the swing set, taking turns pushing each other higher and higher. My mother and father watched from the picnic table, their voices muffled but unmistakably happy. The boy's laughter echoed through the speakers, a sound that was both familiar and foreign. And yet, every time the camera focused on him, his face would distort like a reflection in rippling water. I felt a chill run down my spine. This was wrong. Something was very wrong. Suddenly, the screen flickered again and the image shifted. Now the boy was standing alone in the backyard, his back to the camera. He turned slowly, his face still a blur. My younger self was sitting on the swing, staring at him with an unreadable expression. The tape crackled and popped, the sound distorted as if something was trying to break through. And then, in a flash, the boy's face was clear. For just one moment, his eyes were dark, almost black, and they seemed to bore into the screen. His mouth was twisted into a smile, but it wasn't a happy one. It was a smile that made my skin crawl. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, his face was gone again, replaced by the same glitching blur. The tape ended abruptly, plunging the room into silence. I sat there, my hands shaking, my mind racing. Who was that boy? Why was he in this video with my family? And why couldn't I remember him? I ejected the tape, my fingers trembling as I turned it over in my hands. Summer. All of us. It read again. But who was Hughes? Determined to find more answers, I returned to the attic, this time more thorough in my search. I uncovered boxes of photographs, some of which showed the boy with my family. In one, he was sitting at our dinner table, his face partially obscured by a blur. In another, he was standing next to me at a birthday party, his hand on my shoulder, his face again distorted. It was as if he had always been there, but never truly present. As I sifted through the photos, I began to hear a faint scratching sound coming from the walls. It was soft at first, but it grew louder, more insistent. I paused, listening. The scratching stopped. Then after a moment, it started again. I frowned, my heart pounding in my chest. What was that noise? I tried to focus on the photos, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The scratching grew louder, more frantic, and I found myself glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see someone standing there. But there was never anyone. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I left the attic and went downstairs, determined to confront my mother. She was staying with my aunt, but I knew she was avoiding me. I needed to make her tell me the truth. But when I arrived at my aunt's house, she wasn't there. My aunt was sitting in the living room watching TV Guide. She looked up when I entered, her expression guarded. "She's not here," she said before I could ask. She's not feeling well. Where is she?" I demanded. My aunt sighed, shaking her head. "You need to leave this alone," she said. "Some things are better left in the past." I clenched my fists, frustration boiling over. This is my past. I have a right to know what's going on. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and pity. "You don't understand," she whispered. "That house is not just a house. It remembers, it knows, and has been waiting for you." Her words sent a chill down my spine. "What do you mean?" She shook her head again. "Just be careful, okay? The house has a way of making you see things that aren't there." I left her house more confused than ever. The scratching in the walls, the distorted video, the boy with the blurred face, it all seemed connected, but I couldn't see how. When I returned home, I found something on my bed that made my blood run cold. It was a stuffed animal, an old teddy bear with a torn ear and a faded ribbon around its neck. I had no memory of ever owning it, but it was sitting there watching me as if it had been waiting. And then I heard it again. The scratching. This time, it was coming from the hallway, from the direction of that door, the one that hadn't been there before. I knew then that I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to find out what was on the other side of that door, and I had to do it now. But as I stood there, staring at the door, I felt a wave of doubt wash over me. What if I wasn't supposed to remember? What if the house had a reason for keeping its secrets buried? And what if, by uncovering them, I was putting myself in danger? The scratching grew louder, more urgent, and I knew I had no choice. I had to face whatever was on the other side of that door, even if it meant confronting a past I had no memory of, a past the house refused to forget, the name I should not remember. The air was thick with an eerie silence as I walked through the house, each step creaking softly beneath my feet. It wasn't just the house that felt alive. The shadows seemed to twist and writhe on the walls, like dark tentacles reaching out. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, waiting for me to uncover secrets I wasn't meant to know. The whisper started as a faint hum in my ear, a soft murmur that I could barely discern. "You forgot me." It sent a chill down my spine, but when I turned, no one was there. My heart raced as I tried to convince myself it was the wind, but deep down, I knew better. That evening, I decided to visit my Aunt Margaret, who lived just a few miles away. She was known for her sharp tongue and even sharper memory. As I sat in her cozy living room, the scent of freshly baked cookies lingering in the air, she listened intently as I described the strange occurrences. "Your mother never told you, did she?" she said, her voice low and grave. Her hands trembled as she poured me a cup of steaming tea. There was another child, a brother, but he wasn't like other children. He vanished. I felt a shiver run down my spine. "What do you mean, vanished?" Aunt Margaret hesitated, glancing around the room as if fearing unseen ears. One day, he was there, and the next, he wasn't. No trace, no clue. It was as if he never existed. I returned home, my mind reeling with questions. The house loomed before me, its windows like empty eyes staring back. Inside, I found my mother in the kitchen, her hands shaking as she wiped down the counter. "Mother, we need to talk," I said, my voice firm but gentle. She turned, her eyes wide with fear. "I should have told you years ago, but I was so scared. After your brother, after you disappeared, I couldn't bear the thought of losing you too." "Disappeared how?" I pressed, my heart pounding. She sighed, her shoulders sagging under the weight of her secrets. "It was like he was erased. No one remembers him, not even your father. It's as if he never existed. But the house remembers, and it's been waiting." As she spoke, a low creak echoed through the hallway, making us both jump. I tried to brush it off, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. The house seemed to be closing in around us, the walls pressing in with an ominous presence. I couldn't shake the growing sense of unease. Every sound was amplified, every shadow a potential threat. The whisper grew louder, more insistent. "You forgot me." That night I lay awake, the darkness oppressive. The house creaked and groaned, each sound making me twitch. I heard a faint scratching in the walls, like fingernails on wood. It started softly but grew louder, more urgent. Suddenly, my bedroom door creaked open. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. In the doorway stood a shadowy figure, just beyond the reach of the moonlight. It didn't move, didn't speak, but I could feel its gaze on me. Then, just as quickly, it was gone. The house was alive, and it was watching me. In the morning, I found an old stuffed rabbit on my bed, its glassy eyes staring at me. It wasn't mine. I threw it away, but it reappeared that night, sitting on my pillow with an unblinking gaze. The scratching grew louder, more insistent. It sounded like someone, or something, was trying to claw their way out. I knew then I had to confront the house, to face whatever secrets it held. The house seemed to shift around me, the walls closing in as I made my way to the mysterious door. It was slightly ajar, inviting me to enter. With a deep breath, I pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was a child's bedroom, the air thick with dust, and something else, something metallic, like blood. The walls were covered in old drawings, stick figures of a family. My family. And another boy, his face scribbled out. I felt a hand on my shoulder, cold and clammy. I spun around, but no one was there. The whisper was right beside me now, echoing in my ear. "You've forgot me." I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut. The walls began to change, shifting and reforming. The house was alive, and it was determined to make me remember. As I stumbled through the shifting house, memories began to surface. Fragments of a brother, of laughter, of a life I had forgotten. But with each memory came a voice, a growl in the darkness. "You forgot me. You forgot me." I realized the truth. The house wasn't just remembering. It was trying to make me remember, to bring back a part of me I had forgotten. The brother I had lost, the life I had erased. And with that realization, the house's grip tightened, determined to make me face the past. In the end, I had to make a choice. Remember and risk losing myself, or forget and leave the house behind. But the house wasn't done with me yet. As I fled into the night, the whisper echoed in my mind, a haunting reminder of what I had forgotten. And in the rearview mirror of my car, I could have sworn I saw a shadowy figure watching me, its faceless head turned my way. The radio crackled to life, static filling the air before a voice whispered, "You forgot me again." I floored the gas, the house disappearing in the distance. But the shadow remained, a constant reminder that some secrets refuse to stay buried. The house does not forget. The night air clung to me like a damp shroud as I lay in a bed that was mine yet felt foreign. The room, once a sanctuary of childhood memories, now seemed to breathe with an ominous life of its own. Walls, once painted a cheerful yellow, now loomed in a gloomy gray, their surfaces rippling like water disturbed by a stone. I blinked, unsure if I was awake or trapped in a nightmare. The creak of the wooden floorboards beneath my bed echoed through the silence, a low, groaning squeak that seemed to reverberate deep within my chest. I sat up, the sheets cold against my legs, and fumbled for the lamp. The flickering light revealed a room transformed. Furniture shifted, as if rearranged by an unseen hand. My dresser stood where my bookshelf once was, its mirror cloudy with age. Temptation tugged at me, urging me to approach the mirror. It had been a gift from my aunt, whose distant voice echoed in my mind. "The house has a way of remembering," she had once said, but I never understood. Now, as I stood before the mirror, my reflection lagged, a digital delay that sent a shiver down my spine. The glass surface rippled, distorting my image, making me question my own reality. Whispers, soft and indistinct, drifted through the air, weaving in and out of the silence like a haunting lullaby. They grew louder, more urgent until I could make out words. "Find me. Remember me." The voice was familiar, yet distant, like a memory from another life. I thought of my mother, her trembling voice on the phone, and the forgotten brother she had finally confessed to. But here, in the shifting room, the voice felt closer, more insistent. The scratching in the walls had evolved into a persistent knocking, steady, relentless taps that echoed through the house. Tap, tap, tap it went, each strike vibrating through the air, growing louder. My heart pounded in sync as if the house itself were alive, watching me with cold intent. I tried to stand, but my legs felt heavy, as though rooted to the spot. The knocking intensified, a rhythmic thud, thud, thud that made the walls shudder. Pictures on the dresser rattled, and the mirror's surface rippled again. In the hallway, the new door creaked, a low, ominous groan that sent chills down my spine. Suddenly, a shadow flickered outside my window, a stray cat, its eyes glowing in the dark. But as I watched, it darted away, leaving the night still once more. The knocking paused, and in the silence I heard my name. Emily. The voice was soft, calling from beyond the door. I forced myself to move, each step echoing as I approached the door. It swung open easily, revealing a hallway dark and foreboding. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of decay. The knocking had stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence that made my skin crawl. As I turned back, the room shifted, a slow, sickening lurch that made my stomach drop. My bed was now against the far wall, and the dresser had moved closer. The mirror's surface shimmered, and I caught a glimpse of something behind me, a shadowy figure, tall and imposing. I spun around, but there was no one there. The knocking resumed, louder now, each strike a sharp bang that sent shockwaves through the room. The walls began to close in, the space shrinking as the house seemed to exhale, pushing me toward the door. I stumbled forward, propelled by a growing panic. In the chaos, a toy caught my eye, an old teddy bear, its button eyes staring blankly. It had been my brother's, the one I had forgotten, the one who vanished. The bear sat atop a chest, its lid slightly ajar as if waiting for me to open it. I hesitated, fear warring with curiosity. The knocking, now a frantic pound, 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 pushed me to act. With trembling hands, I lifted the lid, revealing a pile of clothes and drawings, each depicting a family with a faceless boy. The whisper in my ear was sudden, cold. "You forgot me." I spun around, but I was alone. The air felt colder, the shadows twisting around me. The house seemed to hum with a malevolent energy, the walls pressing in as if to crush me. I fled, the door slamming shut behind me with a deafening bang. The corridor stretched endlessly, the knocking now a distant echo as I stumbled toward the stairs. Each step creaked beneath my feet, the house alive and determined to keep its secrets buried. Reaching the front door, I flung it open, gasping the cool night air. But as I looked back, the house loomed, its windows like empty eyes watching me. The knocking had stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence. I ran, the darkness swallowing me whole, the house's final whisper echoing in my mind. "You forgot me again." The truth inside the walls. The scratching had grown louder overnight, like fingernails on chalkboard, relentless and insistent. It echoed through the empty halls, a sound that made my skin crawl. I had tried to ignore it, to distract myself with old family photos and dusty books, but the noise burrowed into my mind, refusing to be silenced. It was coming from the wall opposite my bedroom, a steady, rhythmic scrape that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. My mother had warned me not to touch the walls, not to investigate, but I couldn't help myself. The house had already shifted around me, bending reality in ways that made my head spin. Doors led to places they shouldn't, and shadows moved when I wasn't looking. And then there was the voice. Always the voice. "You forgot me." It followed me everywhere. A whisper in my ear when I was alone. A murmur in the wind when I stepped outside. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a hammer from the garage, the weight of it unfamiliar in my hand. The air inside the house felt heavier now, like a storm was brewing. My reflection in the hallway mirror flickered as I passed, and for a moment, I could have sworn I saw something else in the glass. A shadowy figure standing just behind me. But when I turned, there was no one there. The scratching stopped when I approached the wall. The silence was worse. "Hello?" I said, my voice shaking. "Is anyone there?" No answer. I raised the hammer and brought it down, the impact sending a shockwave through my arm. Plaster crumbled away, revealing the dark hollow of the wall. I hit it again and again, the sound of breaking drywall echoing through the house. Dust filled the air, making me cough. When I finally stepped back, there was a hole big enough to crawl through. I hesitated. Something about the dark space felt wrong, like it was alive and watching me. But I couldn't turn back now. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen and shone it into the hole. What I saw made my breath catch. Inside the wall was a small, hidden room, no bigger than a closet. The walls were covered in drawings, crude but unmistakable. Stick figures of a family, my parents, my mother, and me. But there was another figure in every picture. A boy with no face. The same boy from the door. The same boy from the video. Below the drawings, piled in the corner of the room, were toys. Old, forgotten toys. A teddy bear with one eye missing. A rusty metal car. A stack of comic books, their covers faded and torn. And clothes, small clothes, like they belonged to a child no older than 10. I reached out to touch the teddy bear, but my hand hesitated. Something about it felt wrong. It wasn't just old. It felt abandoned, left behind in a hurry. And then I saw it, a handprint on the inside of the wall, small and faint, like a child had pressed their palm against the plaster. It was unmistakable. "Let me out," a voice whispered, so soft I could barely hear it. I spun around, shining the flashlight in every direction, but I was alone. "Who's there?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. The whisper came again, louder this time. "Let me out." I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest. The air in the room seemed to grow colder, the shadows twisting around me. I could feel eyes on me, boring into my skin. And then I saw it. The handprint on the wall. This time, it wasn't just a print. It was moving. The fingers flexed, the palm pressing harder against the plaster. It was real. It was alive. I dropped the flashlight and scrambled backward, knocking over a stack of comic books as I fell. The noise was deafening in the small space. When I finally managed to crawl out of the wall, I slammed the hole shut behind me, my hands shaking as I leaned against the door. But the whisper followed me. "You forgot me." I stumbled back to my bedroom, locking the door behind me. The walls seemed to press in on me, the shadows deepening into dark, twisting shapes. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the house itself was waiting for me to uncover more secrets. And then, just as I was starting to calm down, I heard the scratching again. This time, it wasn't in the wall. It was right behind my bedroom door. "Let me out," the voice said, louder now, urgent. I froze. The scratching grew frantic, like something was clawing its way through the wood. My heart raced as I backed away from the door, my mind spiraling. Who was this? What was this? And why did the house seem to remember him when I couldn't? I knew then that I couldn't stay in the house any longer. I had to leave, to get as far away as possible. But as I turned to grab my bag, I saw something that made my blood run cold. On my bed, next to the stuffed animal from the forgotten room, was a note. It wasn't there before. It was written in childish scrawl, the letters uneven and messy. "You forgot me," it read, and then beneath it, "But I remember you." The choice. The air in the forgotten room was thick with anticipation, each breath heavy with the weight of unseen eyes watching. The walls, once a cheerful yellow, now seemed to press in, their paint chipped and faded like the memories they held. The forgotten brothers' drawings scattered the floor, each one a poignant reminder of a life once lived, now erased. I stood at the edge of this forgotten sanctuary, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum, each beat echoing through the silent room. The handprint on the wall seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a desperate plea from beyond the plaster. My mother's words hung in the air, a warning laced with fear. "If you remember, he will take your place." The house creaked and groaned, its old wooden bones shifting and sighing. Each creak was a step, each sigh a whisper urging me closer to the truth. The brother's presence was palpable, a shadow lurking just beyond the edge of my vision, his voice a whisper in my ear. "Remember me," he pleaded, his voice a soft breeze that sent chills down my spine. "Let me out." I closed my eyes, the darkness behind my lids a canvas of fragmented memories. Flashes of a boy with a gap-toothed grin, a brother who was no longer a stranger. But with each memory, a faceless figure intruded, erasing the features, leaving only a void. The house was a maze of memories, some mine, some not, and I was lost in its labyrinth. The walls inched closer, the space shrinking, making each breath a struggle. The air was thick with dust and the faint scent of decay. I could feel the weight of the house's gaze upon me, each brick and beam urging me to decide. My mother's hand found mine, her touch cold and trembling. "Don't," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the creaking walls. "He's gone. Let him stay that way." But the brother's presence was insistent, his voice growing louder, more urgent. "You forgot me," he accused, his tone laced with sorrow and anger. "You left me here." I opened my eyes to find the room transformed. The walls were closer, the furniture shifted, as if the very essence of the house was alive and watching. The brother's drawings now depicted him alone, his face finally clear, his eyes pleading. In that moment, I felt the weight of my choice. Remembering him could bring him back, but at what cost? The house seemed to lean in, eager to hear my decision. "I remember," I whispered, the words barely escaping my lips. The room erupted in a cacophony of sound, walls crashing, wood splintering, and a scream that was both familiar and foreign. The brother's form materialized before me, his face no longer a void but a mirror of my own, twisted in a mixture of joy and despair. The house shuddered, its foundation trembling as the brother reached out, his hand brushing against mine. My mother's scream was drowned out by the chaos, her voice a distant echo as the world around me dissolved in the dark. When the world steadied, I stood in the hallway, the front door ajar, the night calling me away from the house that knew my name. But as I stepped into the cool evening air, a chill ran down my spine. The house loomed behind me, its window a shadowy figure watching my retreat. I drove away, the silence of the night broken only by the hum of the engine. But as I glanced in the rearview mirror, my reflection lagged, a momentary delay that sent a shiver through me. And in the back seat a soft breath whispered my name, a reminder that some choices cannot be undone. The house that knew my name still stands, waiting, patient, for the day I might return, for the day I might forget again. But for now, the night swallowed it whole, leaving me with the echoing thought, "You forgot me again." The final twist. The forgotten one is watching. I ran through the front door, slamming it shut behind me as if the house itself might reach out and grab me. The night air was cold, sharp, and clean, a relief after the stifling heaviness inside. My boots crunched against the gravel as I hurried to my car, parked haphazardly in the driveway. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The engine roared to life when I turned the key, a familiar, comforting sound. I pulled out of the driveway, my tires spitting gravel as I sped away. The house receded in my rearview mirror, its dark shape looming under the pale moonlight. For a moment I felt a pang of relief. I was leaving. I was escaping. Whatever was in that house, whatever had haunted me, couldn't follow me now. But then I noticed something wrong. My reflection in the rearview mirror didn't move when I moved. At first I thought it was just a trick of the light, but as I glanced again my reflection lagged. Just a fraction of a second behind. My heart hitched. I told myself it was exhaustion, stress playing tricks on my mind. But the longer I stared, the more I felt a creeping unease. I looked away, focusing on the dark road ahead. And then I heard it. A low, static-filled crackle came from the radio. I hadn't turned it on. I tried to shut it off, but a voice whispered through the noise. It was faint, distorted, but unmistakable. "You forgot me again." My breath caught. The voice was soft, childlike, but tinged with something darker. Anger, sadness. I didn't know. All I knew was that it sent a chill down my spine. I slammed my palm against the radio, knocking it silent. The car fell still, the only sound the hum of the engine and the soft crunch of tires on asphalt. But then, there was breathing. At first, I thought it was just the wind or the vents in the car, but no audio. It was a low, steady breath. Behind me, in the back seat. My heart pounded as I slowly turned my head. The back seat was empty. Or was it? The shadows were deep, and the moonlight filtering through the windows cast strange, shifting patterns on the upholstery. I told myself I was imagining it, but then I heard it again, a slow, deliberate inhale followed by an exhale. "Who's there?" I demanded, my voice shaking despite myself. There was no answer. I forced myself to focus on the road ahead, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I didn't dare look back again. My mind raced, spiraling into worst-case scenarios. Was it him? The boy with no face? Was he really in the car with me? The drive home took what felt like hours, but finally I saw the lights of town in the distance. Civilization. Safety. I sped toward it, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I didn't even shut off the engine before leaping out of the car. I didn't look back. I ran straight into my apartment, slamming the door shut and locking it behind me. Only then did I allow myself to collapse against the wall, trembling. It was over. I had left. I had escaped. The house and its secrets were behind me. But as I sat there catching my breath, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. That something, someone, had followed me. Days passed, and I tried to convince myself it was all in my head. Stress, fatigue got all. Maybe even the early signs of something more serious, like schizophrenia. My mother had always worried about me, and now I wondered if I had good reason to worry too. But the voice on the radio, the breathing in the back seat, it was too real to ignore. I tried to move on, to distract myself with work and friends, but at night, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I started seeing things out of the corner of my eye. Movement, shadows, fleeting glimpses of something that wasn't there. And then one night, I heard it again. The whisper. You forgot me. This time, it wasn't in the car. It was in my apartment. I froze, my heart pounding. It was there. I called out, my voice echoing in the empty room. No one answered, but the whisper came again, louder this time. You forgot me. And then I saw him. A shadowy figure, just beyond the edge of the room. Tall enough to be a child, but faceless. No features, no eyes, no mouth. Just nothing. He stepped forward and then I screamed. But when I turned on the light, he was gone. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. Or the one after that. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was always there, watching, waiting. The house had forgotten me, but the forgotten boy had not. One night, I received a package in the mail. Inside was an old VHS tape, unlabeled. I didn't know where it came from, but I had a terrible feeling. I had played it on an old TV I'd found at a thrift store, and what I saw made my blood run cold. The footage was grainy, distorted, but I was a younger version of myself, playing in the backyard of the old house, and there, alongside me, was the faceless boy. We were laughing, running, playing, but every so often, his face would flicker, glitch, and disappear. It was as if he was being erased even then. The tape ended abruptly, and I sat there, staring at the static-filled screen. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. The house hadn't forgotten me. The boy hadn't forgotten me. And neither had I, really. Deep down, buried under years of denial and fear, I remembered. He was my brother, or at least, he had been. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to go back to the house, to confront whatever was happening. But another part of me knew that if I did, I might never leave again. The house had a way of holding on to people, and now it seemed on to me. The last time I saw the house was on the news. It had burned down in the middle of the night, the cause unknown. The fire department said it was likely an electrical issue, but I knew better. The house had finally forgotten. It had finally let go. But even now, years later, I still hear the whisper. Sometimes in my sleep, sometimes when I'm alone. You forgot me again. And I wonder if I ever truly escaped. The Skinwalker's Curse. In the isolated desert town of Red Valley, Arizona, nestled deep within the Navajo Nation, whispers of an ancient evil have haunted generations. The land itself feels alive here, red dust swirling in unnatural patterns when the wind blows, and strange shadows that stretch too long across the cracked earth at sunset. For those born in Red Valley, these omens are simply part of life, warnings passed down through bloodlines older than the town itself. 17-year-old Mia Blackwater knows these warnings better than most. Her grandmother told her never to whistle after dark, never to look directly at coyotes with mismatched eyes, and above all, never to speak of Ye and Old Lucy, the Skinwalker, lest you invite its attention. But 3 years ago, Mia's father, Sheriff Daniel Blackwater, broke that sacred rule while investigating a series of brutal livestock mutilations that left animals inside out, yet somehow still breathing when discovered. The night Daniel disappeared, Mia awoke to an inhuman scream that seemed to vibrate through her bones. Ya, 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 a sound no human throat could produce. By morning, her father's truck was found abandoned at Medicine Ridge. Doors flung open, his flashlight still on, illuminating a circle of strange symbols drawn in what the forensic team could only describe as unidentifiable biological matter. All that remained of Daniel Blackwater was his sheriff's badge, bent and twisted as though crushed in an impossibly strong grip. The attacks stopped after that night. The town exhaled a collective breath and did what isolated communities do best. They buried the truth beneath layers of silence. Animal attacks, the new sheriff declared. Mountain lion, probably. But Mia saw how the adults averted their eyes when saying this, how conversations stopped when she entered rooms. Now, 3 years later, as Mia's senior year begins, those same eerie howls have returned, echoing across the mesas. Cattle are being found mutilated again, tongues removed with surgical precision, organs arranged in disturbing patterns that resemble the ancient symbols in her father's research journal, which she keeps hidden beneath her floorboard. "It's happening again," whispers her grandmother, now bedridden and speaking only in Navajo. The skinwalker hungers for Blackwater blood. What began as a desperate quest to discover what happened to her father now plunges Mia into a generational curse. The skinwalker doesn't just hunt randomly. It has been stalking her family for generations, taking someone from each bloodline when they reach adulthood. And with her 18th birthday approaching in mere weeks, Mia realizes with bone-chilling certainty she's next. Each night the sounds draw closer. Scratch, scratch at her window. Creak, creak on the porch steps. The scent of rotting meat and sage drifting through air vents. And most disturbing, her own reflection sometimes moving a fraction of a second too slowly in mirrors, as though something else wears her face when she isn't looking. As Mia delves deeper into her father's research, she uncovers a horrifying truth. The skinwalker isn't just a monster. It's a person, someone who sacrificed their humanity for unnatural power. Someone who walks among them in Red Valley. Someone who knows her routines, her fears, her weaknesses. Could it be her recently returned Uncle Samuel, who disappeared for decades only to arrive precisely when the howling began again? Or Miss Tozy, her Navajo language teacher who watches her with unblinking eyes? Perhaps even her new boyfriend Jesse, whose touch sometimes feels unnaturally cold. The skinwalker isn't just hunting her, it's infiltrated her life, wearing a human disguise so perfect that Mia can trust no one. Not even herself. Whispers in Red Valley. The setting sun painted Red Valley in shades of crimson and gold as Mia Blackwater stood at her bedroom window, watching dust devils dance across her yard with an almost purposeful movement. Each tiny tornado seemed to pause at the edge of her property line before dissipating, as if something invisible prevented them from coming closer. Protection, her grandmother would have said. The old ways are still working with their silent magic around the Blackwater home. Mia absently twisted the silver pendant around her neck, her father's badge, hammered flat and polished smooth after they found it. The only thing left of Sheriff Daniel Blackwater after that night 3 years ago. The metal retained a strange coldness no matter how long she held it against her skin. "Don't whistle after dark," she murmured to herself, reciting her grandmother's warnings from memory. "Don't look directly at coyotes with mismatched eyes, and never ever speak its name aloud." The last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the distant mesas, plunging the valley into that peculiar southwestern twilight, where shadows stretched impossibly long before darkness swallowed them whole. Mia closed her curtains with practiced haste. Night came quickly in the desert, and with it, memories she'd rather keep buried. But tonight, those memories surfaced unbidden, as vivid as when she was 14. The frantic pounding on her bedroom door had jolted Mia from sleep. Her grandmother's voice tight with fear. "Your father's radio went dead. Get dressed." The search party gathered quickly. This was Red Valley, where everyone knew everyone, and the sheriff was respected if not always understood. Flashlights cut through the darkness as pickup trucks bounced along dirt roads. Mia rode shotgun in Deputy Wilson's cruiser, her heart hammering against her ribs. "He was checking out reports of something strange at Medicine Ridge," Wilson explained, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Standard procedure. Check in every 30 minutes. But then what?" Mia had demanded. Wilson's eyes stayed fixed on the road. There was a sound. Not static. Something else. They found Daniel Blackwater's truck at the base of Medicine Ridge. Doors flung wide open, headlights still burning against the darkness. His flashlight lay in the dirt, illuminating a circle of symbols, drawn in something dark and glistening that no one would let Mia get close enough to examine. "Animal blood," someone whispered, but even at 14, Mia knew they were lying. The radio inside the truck crackled with white noise that occasionally formed patterns almost resembling words. And there, in the center of those strange symbols, was her father's badge, twisted and bent as though crushed in a grip far stronger than human. No footprints led away from the scene. No drag marks. No blood trail. Just emptiness stretching in every direction, and the unspoken knowledge among the adults that something unnatural had happened here. Mountain Lion, Deputy Wilson officially declared by morning light, but Mia hadn't missed how his hand trembled when he picked up that band badge, or how the search dogs refused to track beyond the circle, whimpering and backing away with their tails between their legs. 3 years later, Mia's memories were interrupted by the sudden silence enveloping her bedroom. The constant background noise of the desert night, crickets, distant coyotes, the whisper of wind, had stopped all at once. The unnatural quiet pressed against her eardrums like a physical force. Tick, tick, tick. Her alarm clock sounded obscenely loud in the silence. And then, a sound she'd prayed never to hear again. Starting low, almost below human hearing, rising to a pitch that made her teeth ache and her bones vibrate. Ya. Not quite animal. Not quite human. Something ancient and hungry calling across the darkness. Mia's eyes snapped to her digital clock just as the numbers changed. 3:33 a.m. The exact time they'd estimated her father had disappeared. Her hand fumbled for her phone, fingers shaking as she pulled up her camera. The skin along her arms prickled as she approached the window, fighting every instinct screaming at her to hide. Slowly, she edged the curtain back just enough to point her phone camera out into the darkness. The screen showed nothing at first, just the empty yard, her grandmother's pickup truck, the fence line beyond. But as she adjusted the angle, something moved at the edge of the frame. A shadow darker than the surrounding night, standing perfectly still by the ancient cottonwood tree. Mia zoomed in, her breath catching in her throat. The figure was tall, too tall, its limbs bent at impossible angles. And though its face remained in shadow, 2 points of light reflected back at her camera. Eyes glowing red like hot coals. Eyes looking directly at her window. Eyes that blinked sideways. Mia dropped the phone, scrambling backward until her spine hit the wall. When she finally gathered the courage to check the screen again, The image showed nothing but her empty yard. But carved into the bark of the cottonwood tree, visible even in the grainy night footage, was a fresh symbol identical to those found around her father's abandoned truck. It had begun again. The first signs. 3 years of normalcy shattered in 7 days. Monday morning found Mia lacing up her running shoes before dawn, desperately trying to shake off the memory of those red eyes from the night before. Running had become her sanctuary after her father's disappearance. Iced miles through the desert landscape, her footfalls matching her heartbeat, thoughts quieted by exert. Just a nightmare, she whispered to herself as she stretched on the porch. The cottonwood tree stood innocent in the pre-dawn light, its bark unmarked. No symbol, no evidence of anything watching from its shadows. The eastern sky had just begun to lighten as Mia followed her usual trail, skirting the edge of the dry creek bed where ocotillo cacti stood like sentinels against the pale horizon. Her breath formed small clouds in the cool morning air, and for 20 blissful minutes she felt almost normal. Then she rounded the bend at Eagle Rock and saw it. A coyote, or what remained of one, splayed across the trail. Its fur had been peeled back with surgical precision, internal organs arranged in a circular pattern around the body. Most disturbing of all, its chest still rose and fell with shallow breaths, despite injuries that should have been immediately fatal. "Oh my God," Mia gasped, stumbling backward. The coyote's eyes snapped open at the sound of her voice. Not the amber eyes of a normal desert predator, but milky white, like cataracts. Its jaw worked soundlessly, as though trying to speak. Mia fumbled for her phone, backing away slowly. The dying animal's gaze followed her movements with unnerving precision. When she looked down at her screen to unlock it, a low whine made her glance up again. The coyote had somehow dragged itself 3 feet closer, leaving no trail in the dust. Mia sprinted all the way back to town, straight to the high school where Mr. Begay, the biology teacher who'd been friends with her father, was already preparing his morning labs. "Something's mutilating animals again," she panted, pulling him toward his truck. "Like before, you have to see this." But when they returned 40 minutes later, the coyote was gone. No blood, no organs, no evidence of the grotesque scene she'd witnessed. Only a strange symbol burned into the dirt, identical to the one from her father's case file. A broken circle with angular marks radiating outward like a distorted sun. "I believe you saw something, Mia," Mr. Begay said quietly, his weathered face grave as he studied the symbol. "But be careful who you tell. Some things in this valley, they notice when you notice them." At school that day, everything felt slightly wrong, like a familiar photograph where all the furniture had been shifted 1 inch to the left. Lila, her best friend since kindergarten, chatted about college applications and prom committee. Her normalcy a stark contrast to the horror movie playing in Mia's mind. During lunch, a new presence appeared in the cafeteria. Tall, with copper skin and eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Jesse Two Ravens, according to the whispers, a transfer student from a reservation in New Mexico. "He's looking at you," Layla nudged Mia, wiggling her eyebrows suggestively. Indeed, Jesse's gaze tracked Mia across the room with unsettling intensity. When their eyes met, he didn't look away, just offered a slight nod as though confirming something to himself. Later in Navajo language class, Miss Tozy watched Mia with similar scrutiny, her ancient fingers pausing mid-lesson to adjust her turquoise necklace whenever Mia spoke. After class, the elderly teacher pressed something into Mia's palm, a small leather pouch on a cord. "Wear this," Miss Tozy whispered, her grip surprisingly strong, especially at night. Before Mia could ask why, the teacher added, "Your father had one too. He stopped wearing it 3 days before he vanished." That night, Mia retrieved her father's research journal from beneath the loose floorboard under her bed. Comparing the symbol she'd seen to his meticulous sketches confirmed her worst fears. They matched perfectly. In the margins, her father had written a single word, "Ye naud Lucy," the word her grandmother had forbidden her to say aloud. As exhaustion finally pulled her towards sleep, journal still open on her chest, Mia didn't notice the shadow that passed briefly across her window. Didn't see the figure watching from the darkness, its eyes reflecting an impossible red glow, its head tilted at an angle no human neck could achieve. But in the morning, she would discover the muddy footprints on her windowsill. Prints that began there and vanished after 3 steps, as though whatever made them had simply dissolved into thin air. Blood memory. Mia's grandmother hadn't left her bed in nearly 3 weeks. The doctors from the reservation clinic called it pneumonia, but Nana Blackwater knew better. "It's time," she whispered whenever Mia brought her tea, those ancient eyes clouded but somehow seeing more clearly than ever. On Tuesday afternoon, as storm clouds gathered over the distant mesas, Mia returned home from school to find her grandmother sitting upright for the first time in days, surrounded by strange objects. Bundles of sage, a leather pouch spilling red sand, and a yellowed photograph Mia had never seen before. "Come," Nana beckoned, her papery skin stretched tight over knobby knuckles as she patted the bed. "It's happening again. I can feel it in my bones." Mia sank onto the faded quilt, the scent of sage and illness thick in the small bedroom. "The coyote I found, the symbol. I know." Nana's voice cracked like autumn leaves. "The skinwalker has returned, and this time it hungers for you." A chill swept through Mia despite the stuffy warmth of the room. "Me? Why?" Nana lifted the photograph with trembling hands. 6 people stood stiffly before an old trading post, their faces solemn beneath wide-brimmed hats. In the center stood a man with Mia's same high cheekbones and straight nose. "Your great-grandfather," Nana said, tapping the image. "He was more than just the town's first sheriff. He was a medicine man who walked in both worlds, white and Navajo." Thunder rumbled in the distance as she continued, her voice dropping to a whisper that forced Mia to lean closer. "Our family isn't just random victims, child. We are descended from the man who trapped part of the Skinwalker's essence generations ago. A powerful medicine man who used forbidden knowledge to bind the creature after it. Murdered 3 children from the reservation." Mia's mind reeled. "But my father..." "Your father knew his time was coming," Nana interrupted, suddenly gripping Mia's wrist with surprising strength. "Every 18 years, the Skinwalker returns for retribution, taking 1 Blackwater as payment. Your grandfather disappeared in 1988, your father in 2022. And now..." She didn't need to finish. 2025. Mia's 18th birthday, just 3 weeks away. "The Skinwalker isn't just some mindless monster," Nana continued, releasing Mia's wrist to open the leather pouch. Red sand spilled across the quilt, forming patterns that seemed to shift when Mia looked away. It was once a man who sacrificed his humanity for power. It remembers, it plans, and it never, ever forgives. A sudden pounding at the front door made them both jump. Nana's eyes widened with fear. "Were you followed home?" she hissed. Before Mia could answer, a familiar voice called through the house. "Hello? Anybody home?" "Uncle Samuel," Mia breathed, relief washing through her. Banana's grip tightened again, her nails digging half-moons into Mia's skin. "Your father's brother hasn't set foot in Red Valley for 20 years. Why now? Why today?" Footsteps approached the bedroom, and Samuel Blackwater appeared in the doorway, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Tall and weathered like her father had been, but with something hollow behind his gaze that made Mia's skin prickle. "There's my favorite niece," he said, arms outstretched. "Sorry to drop in unannounced. I just felt called to come home." Over dinner that night, store-bought rotisserie chicken that Samuel picked at but barely a tea, Maya noticed the subtle wrongness. The way he held his fork in his left hand when family photos showed him right-handed. How he navigated the kitchen for glasses without asking where they were kept, despite supposedly never having visited before. The unnatural stillness when he thought no one was watching. Most disturbing was the way Buckshot, their ancient retriever mix, growled low in his throat whenever Samuel entered a room. The old dog had never met Uncle Samuel before, yet his reaction was instinctive, primal. Hackles raised, teeth bared, eyes never leaving the man's movements. That night, as Mia prepared for bed, she caught Samuel studying her father's framed sheriff's badge on the living room wall, his reflection in the glass strangely distorted, elongated. "He was a good man," Samuel said without turning. "Always trying to protect everyone, even when it cost him everything." A chill ran down Mia's spine. "You make it sound like he had a choice." Samuel turned then, his smile tight. "We all have choices, Mia. Some are just harder than others." Later, lying in bed with Buckshot unusually insistent on sleeping in her room, Mia finally fell into a restless sleep. The wind picked up outside, bringing the petrichor scent of rain on desert soil through her cracked window. As consciousness faded, the scratching began. Scratch, 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 fingernails or claws against her window glass. But when she bolted upright, heart pounding, the window was unmarked. Only the rhythmic tapping of raindrops against the glass, almost like a code or a language she couldn't quite understand. Almost like a warning. The hunter and the hunted. I still remember the exact moment I decided to follow in my father's footsteps. It wasn't a decision made lightly, more like a slow realization that I was already walking his path, had been since the day he vanished. By Wednesday morning, the rain had washed away any evidence of strange footprints outside my window, but the growing sense of being watched remained. I skipped my morning run, instead spreading my father's case files across my bedroom floor, methodically arranging them by date. The pattern was immediately obvious when viewed this way. Animal mutilations had started exactly 3 weeks before my father disappeared, each incident forming an outward spiral from our house, like ripples from a stone dropped in still water. "You're going to be late for school," Uncle Samuel called through my door. I quickly gathered the files, shoving them under my bed. Something about his sudden appearance in Red Valley still felt wrong, like a puzzle piece that almost fits but isn't quite right. "Just a minute," I called back, trying to sound normal. At school, I nearly collided with Jesse Two Ravens while rushing to first period. My armful of books scattered across the hallway floor. "Sorry," I mumbled, kneeling to gather them. Jesse crouched beside me, his movements fluid and deliberate. "You're investigating it, aren't you?" he asked quietly, his dark eyes intense as he handed me my calculus textbook. My breath caught. "Investigating what?" "The Skinwalker." He said it plainly, without looking around to see if anyone heard. I flinched at the words spoken aloud. "Why would you think that?" "Because it's hunting you," he replied simply. "And you don't look like someone who hides." That afternoon, instead of going straight home, I met Jesse at the public library. He'd offered to help, claiming his grandfather had been a medicine man who knew the old stories. Together, we plotted the most recent animal mutilations I'd heard about on a map of Red Valley. Just like 3 years ago, they formed a spiral, but this time, tightening inward toward my house. "It's marking its territory," Jesse explained, his finger tracing a pattern. "Drawing power from the depths, preparing." "For what?" I whispered. His eyes met mine. "For you. The skinwalker needs to claim its victim before midnight on their 18th birthday, or its power diminishes." Ice slid down my spine. "How do you know so much about this?" A shadow passed over Jesse's face. "Because my family has been hunting these things for generations." We spent hours in the library, poring over old newspapers and tribal records. Jesse taught me to recognize the signs. Mutilated animals placed at the 4 directions, symbols carved into living trees, the distinctive 3-toed tracks that no natural creature would leave. As sunset approached, we drove out to Medicine Ridge in Jesse's battered pickup, the place my father had vanished. The sky turned blood red as we discovered a small cave entrance half hidden by brush. "Look," Jesse pointed to ancient petroglyphs carved into the rock face, stick figures with elongated limbs surrounding a central figure with a distorted head. "The skinwalker's origin story," he explained. "Once a man who killed his own family for power, cursed to hunger for others' lives to maintain his own." The wind picked up suddenly, carrying that distinctive howl. "Ya-ya-ya-ch," much closer than before. Our eyes met in shared terror. "We need to leave," Jesse whispered. "Now." But as we turned toward his truck, the howl came again, from the direction we needed to go. Something was between us and safety, drawing closer with each heartbeat. We were no longer the hunters, skin deep. Trust is the first casualty of terror. We escaped Medicine Ridge that night by pure luck. A passing tribal police cruiser scared whatever was stalking us back into the shadows. Officer Benelli gave us a stern warning about trespassing after dark, his flashlight lingering a moment too long on Jesse's face before letting us go. "That wasn't coincidence," Jesse muttered as we drove away. "Benelli's one of the few who know, part of the old protection society." I wanted to believe him, needed to believe someone. But doubt had taken root in my mind, spreading like desert creosote after rain. By Friday, I found myself watching everyone through new eyes, calculating, suspicious. How well did I really know anyone in Red Valley? If the skinwalker could take human form, anyone might be wearing a false skin. Uncle Samuel's behavior grew increasingly strange. He disappeared each night after dinner, returning near dawn with no explanation. Twice I caught him standing in my father's old study, staring at the wall of family photos, his silhouette somehow wrong in the darkness, too tall, too angular. When I switched on the light, he looked normal again, just my father's brother with tired eyes and an apologetic smile. "Can't sleep," he'd explain. "Too many memories in this house." But were they his memories, or stolen ones? During Navajo language class, Miss Tozy watched me with an intensity that set my nerves on edge. When I stayed after to ask about protection symbols, she pressed another charm into my hand, a small stone wrapped in leather cord. "Silver burns them," she whispered, her ancient face inscrutable, "and they cannot cross a line of white ash without revealing themselves." The charm burned hot against my palm for a moment before cooling, a reaction I couldn't explain. Even Jesse, my only confidant, occasionally slipped. Once, when our hands touched while examining my father's journal, his skin felt ice cold, corpse cold, for just a moment before warming. Sometimes his reactions seemed delayed, emotions crossing his face seconds after they should have appeared, as though being processed rather than felt. I began setting small traps to test those around me. A line of salt across my bedroom threshold. Silver quarters casually handed to Uncle Samuel to check for rare dates. Photos taken when people weren't expecting it. Examining them later for camera anomalies. Paranoia became my constant companion, whispering doubts with every shadow that moved wrong, every unexplained sound in the night. Then came Saturday night. Unable to sleep, I reviewed footage from the small security camera I'd installed above our front door. A last-minute purchase from the hardware store. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the timestamp showed me walking out the front door. Though I had no memory of doing so, on screen, I moved stiffly to the edge of our property, stopping at the boundary where the desert began. A shadow deeper than the surrounding darkness approached from beyond the camera's range. The footage contained no audio, but I watched myself speaking, gesturing with unnatural precision. For nearly 4 minutes, I conversed with something just outside the frame. Just before the figure retreated, the camera captured my face in profile, illuminated briefly by moonlight. My expression was blank, eyes unblinking. My mouth moved in patterns no human speech would form. I stared at the frozen image, my blood turning to ice water in my veins. The person on the screen was me, but somehow not me at all. What terrified me most wasn't just that I had no memory of this encounter. It was the realization that the skinwalker might not need to get inside my house. It might already be inside me. The 18th birthday. Mia sat cross-legged on the wooden floor of her grandmother's bedroom. The scent of burning sage thick in the air. Candlelight flickered over the symbols her grandmother painted on her arms, intricate spirals and sharp lines crafted from a mix of crushed turquoise and white ash. The old woman's hands trembled as she worked, but her voice was steady. "The skinwalker must claim you before midnight," Nana Blackwater murmured, her fingers pressing the protective marks into Maya's skin. "Or it will be weakened for another generation." Mia swallowed hard, her stomach twisting. Just 3 days left until her 18th birthday. 3 days to uncover the truth. 3 days before she either became a victim or stopped this thing for good. That night, unable to sleep, Mia broke the one rule she had never dared to. She entered her father's old office at the sheriff's station. The room had been left untouched since his disappearance. A time capsule of unfinished case notes, scattered coffee cups, and a calendar frozen on the month he vanished. The lock on the file cabinet gave way with little effort, revealing manila folders thick with reports her father had hidden from official records. Her breath caught in her throat as she read. Not just her father's case, but dozens like it. Names from her own family tree. Each disappearance spaced nearly 18 years apart. And at the bottom of the pile, a single yellowed photograph from 1985. Mia's heart pounded. The image showed a body lying on the dirt, limbs twisted unnaturally, eyes empty and staring. Her Uncle Samuel, dead. A victim of a skinwalker attack. But that was impossible. Uncle Samuel was alive, living in her house, talking to her, eating at her table. If he had died in 1985, then what, or who, had been calling himself her uncle all these years? Mia shoved the files back into the cabinet and ran. Her vision blurred as she sped home, the truth unraveling in her mind like a frayed thread. She found him in the kitchen, sipping a cup of coffee as though nothing was wrong. "Where were you?" he asked casually, but his eyes flicked to the dust on her clothes, the sweat on her brow. Mia's fingers clenched around the photo, her voice barely above a whisper. "Who are you?" Samuel set his cup down. The air in the room thickened, the shadows stretching unnaturally around him. He sighed, shaking his head. "I was hoping you wouldn't figure it out. Not yet." The floor felt unsteady beneath Maya's feet. "You're not my uncle." "No," he admitted. "Your real uncle died the night I took his skin." The words stole the breath from her lungs. Samuel's form seemed to flicker, like a mirage, his features shifting, only slightly, but enough for Mia to see it. A distortion, a wrongness that had been there all along. The skinwalker hadn't just killed her family, it had become them. Samuel, or the thing wearing his face, leaned forward, his voice softer now. "And your father?" he said, tilting his head. "Well, Mia, he's not dead either." The room spun. Her father missing for 3 years, gone without a trace. "He's still out there," the skinwalker whispered. "But he's not who you remember." Mia's vision blurred, her pulse roaring in her ears. The realization settled in her bones like ice. She had been looking for her father, but all this time, he had been watching her. Inheritance. The desert was vast, but Mia knew it better than anyone. It had been her playground, her refuge. Now it was her hunting ground and her prison. She ran, breath ragged, sand burning against her exposed skin. The darkness pressed in from all sides, and behind her the thing that had worn her uncle's face followed, its distorted limbs moving with an unnatural grace. Every few seconds, a sickening crack echoed through the night as its bones twisted, reshaping. "You can't run forever, Mia," it called, its voice still wearing the cadence of her uncle. But the illusion was breaking, unraveling with every step. "It's in your blood too. You'll understand soon." She didn't answer. Couldn't. The bundle of sacred items her grandmother had given her weighed heavy against her chest. The time for fear had passed. The research her father left behind, the warnings whispered through generations. She was the culmination of it all. The final piece in a war older than Red Valley itself. She stumbled into the clearing at Medicine Ridge. The wind screamed through the rock formations, the jagged stones catching the moonlight like skeletal fingers. Here, in the heart of something ancient, the ground pulsed beneath her feet. The symbols carved into the stone flared with a pale, unnatural light. She could almost hear them whispering. Her father had stood here once, searching for answers. She stood here now, seeking an end. The skinwalker emerged from the shadows. It was barely human now. Its torso twisted at an unnatural angle, one arm too long, its fingers ending in claws instead of nails. Strips of flesh hung from its shifting form, revealing glimpses of something black and glistening beneath. Its eyes, no longer her uncle's, burned with an unnatural hunger. Yet, behind the hunger, something else stirred. Recognition. Mia's pulse hammered. "You don't have to be this," she said, voice steady despite the terror clawing at her throat. "I know you're still in there. I know who you used to be." The skinwalker flinched, then it laughed. "He is long gone," it hissed, though there was hesitation in its voice. "There's only the hunger now." But Mia had seen it, the flicker of something beyond the monster, the father she had lost. She unwrapped the bundle her grandmother had prepared, the ceremonial blade, the vial of her own blood, and the mixture of herbs that stung the air with their potency. Her father's notes had been clear. The ritual required both their blood, one bound to the cursed line, the other tied to the thing that had stolen from it. Midnight was approaching. The air shimmered, the boundary between worlds thin. This was her only chance. The skinwalker lunged. Mia moved. The blade found flesh. Blood, both hers and its, spilled onto the sacred earth, mixing in a way that defied nature. The symbols carved into the ridge pulsed violently, their glow intensified. A low, guttural sound ripped from the skinwalker's throat, part agony, part rage. Its form convulsed, caught between what it had become and what it had once been. And then, for the first time in years, a familiar voice, faint but unmistakable. Mia, her father. The light around them blazed, consuming everything in white fire. And then, silence. The desert swallowed the sound, leaving only the whisper of the wind and the distant cry of a lone coyote. Mia collapsed to her knees, staring at the place where the creature had stood. She was alone, or so she thought. Blood moon rising. The blood moon hung heavy in the sky, staining the desert in eerie crimson. Midnight was moments away. The boundary between the living and the cursed had never been thinner. Mia stood within the sacred circle she had drawn in white ash, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The desert air was thick with the scent of sage and blood, hers and the creature's. The wounds on her arms stung, but she had no time for pain. Across from her, the skinwalker lurked just beyond the circle's edge, its shifting form illuminated in the unnatural glow of the moonlight. It had lost much of its human disguise, but the flickers of her father's face still emerged in grotesque intervals, as though the man he had once been was clawing against the monster from within. "You don't have to fight it," the thing rasped, its voice a warping blend of human and something else. "You don't have to run. You can become." Mia's fingers tightened around the knife she held. "What are you saying?" The skinwalker stepped closer, its feet stirring the ash but not breaking the line. "Not yet. It is never about killing you, Mia. It's about offering you what has always belonged to your bloodline. We are one and the same." It tilted its head, its blackened lips twisting into something resembling a smile. "Your father accepted the gift to save you, and now you can do the same." Mia's breath caught in her throat. No, he wouldn't have. Wouldn't he? The creature's face flickered, its features shifting in rapid succession. Her uncle, her father, and finally a face she had never seen, but somehow knew. The truth crashed down on her like a landslide. This wasn't just a curse. It was an inheritance, one offered to every Blackwater who came of age. Most resisted, but some, her father, had given in. Mia's hands trembled. If he accepted, why did he disappear? Why did he stay gone? The creature's mouth curled. Because he fought too long, resisted too much, and the hunger took hold. Her stomach churned. The offer was clear. Either she let herself be hunted and devoured like the others, or she became part of the legacy. Mia forced herself to steady her breathing. She looked down at the sacred symbols carved into the earth, their glow fading as the moment of transformation neared. She had only one chance. "You want my blood?" she whispered. Then come take it. The creature lunged. At the last possible moment, Mia stepped aside, baiting it across the threshold of the sacred circle. The moment its foot touched the boundary, the desert seemed to breathe, an unseen force slamming into the creature like a collapsing wave. It shrieked, writhing, its form locked within the circle. Mia stumbled back as the glow of the symbols flared once more, illuminating something more than just the skinwalker. There were others, ghostly figures flickering in and out of sight. Her ancestors, and her father. He stood at the creature's core, barely visible, his expression twisted in anguish. Fighting. Still fighting. Mia's heart ached. Dad, no more, he rasped, his voice breaking through the screeching wail of the thing that held him. And this, Mia. Tears blurred her vision, but she nodded. With a deep breath, she drove the ceremonial knife into the earth, slicing her palm open over the sacred symbols. Blood met dust. History met reckoning. The ground shuddered, the air thick with a soundless roar. The skinwalker convulsed, its stolen skins peeling away, its stolen voices crying out in agony. One by one, the ghosts flickered and vanished, freed. The last to go was her father. He met her eyes one final time, something resembling peace on his face, before dissolving into the wind. The desert fell silent. Mia collapsed, the dawn beginning to break over the ridges in the distance. The curse was over, or so she thought. 6 months later, Mia sat behind her father's old desk, the sheriff's station eerily quiet in the dim light of early evening. She flipped through the last of the files, finally marking her father's case closed. Her reflection in the window caught her eye. She looked different now, stronger, sharper, changed. Then, just for a moment, her eyes flashed red. Mia blinked, her breath hitching. The color was gone, but deep down she knew. The inheritance wasn't truly broken, only waiting.